Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei becomes a legendary soldier. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Issei Hyoudou, once a young man with humble beginnings, faced a tragic fate when he was murdered by his first girlfriend, Rainier. However, he was revived by Rias Gremory, the heiress of the Gremory clan, becoming a servant in her peerage as the only pawn and the host of the Red Dragon Emperor, Drake. This marked the beginning of his journey into the supernatural world, where he quickly became a major player. He achieved numerous feats, including defeating Riser Phoenix, confronting the Cadre Kokabeel, and facilitating peace between the three factions. He survived a bite from Fenrir, fought the White Dragon Empress to a standstill, and stopped Shalba Beelzebub. His resilience was further tested when he entered the Juggernaut Drive and emerged alive, ultimately defeating the strongest youth devil, Serorg Bale. In a climactic battle, he accomplished the seemingly impossible by killing the Beast of the Apocalypse, saving both the supernatural and human worlds. Despite his many achievements and being a pillar of the faction alliance, Issei faced betrayal. One day, he learned that the factions, excluding the Shinto, Hindu, Norse, and Angel factions, voted for his exile, viewing him merely as a tool. Rias ripped away his 8 pawn pieces, leaving him in excruciating pain. Only 3 of the girls in his HM, Kurokatu, Irina Shidu, and Rosweiss, stood by his side during this dark time. The betrayal led to the withdrawal of the Angel, Shinto, Norse, and Hindu factions from the alliance, significantly weakening it. Soon after, the Hyoudou family disowned him, declaring him a disgrace. His mother, Miki, expressed her disappointment in his actions, while his father, Goru, demanded he leave their home, insisting he was a failure and a mistake. This rejection shattered Issei's heart, as the very people who should have supported him turned their backs. With nothing left, he left the Hyoudou home, taking only his important documents, and departed the country. Upon discovering Issei's plight, Kuroka, Irina, and Rosweiss were furious. Kuroka confronted the Hyoudou couple, delivering a fierce retribution for their betrayal. Afterward, she returned to Team Valle and informed her team leader about the situation, which incited further anger and led to a severing of ties with the alliance, particularly the Grigori. Valiana, Kuroka's team leader, expressed her disdain for how Issei was treated, emphasizing their significance as heavenly dragons rather than mere tools. She vowed never to trust those who had wronged Issei again. Meanwhile, Rosweiss returned to her home faction, where she was able to remove her rook piece, ceasing her status as a devil and resuming her previous duties as Odin's bodyguard. The fallout from Issei's betrayal rippled through the supernatural community, leaving a profound impact on all involved. Team Slashdog reacted similarly to Team Valle, expressing their anger and protest against the alliance's decision. The Shinto faction took them in, and they became part of the faction under the Red Dragon Accord. Irina returned to heaven, where she was welcomed back and comforted by Gabriel and Michael, who understood her anger and helped her find calm. As a result of the turmoil, the Shidu family severed ties with the Hyoudou family. Issei, heartbroken, left Japan entirely. Before departing, he met with Amaterasu, the leader of the Shinto faction and his surrogate mother. In a moment of vulnerability, he shared his feelings and frustrations with her. Amaterasu reassured him of the support from the Shinto faction, expressing her disappointment in Yasaka for abandoning him. She emphasized that he was cherished and always welcome in the heavenly plains. With tears in his eyes, Issei left for the United States, choosing to live on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., far from the city. 10 months later, the situation had deteriorated significantly. The faction alliance faced renewed attacks from a resurgent Khaos Brigade, which had launched a massive assault on the Grigori, resulting in the loss of many low and mid-class fallen angels and injuring key figures like Barakiel, Shemhazai, and Sahariel. The crisis forced Azazel to return as Governor-General to stabilize the situation. In the Devil faction, a second civil war erupted over Issei's exile. 2 factions emerged, reminiscent of the previous conflict. The pro-Issei faction, composed of devils who supported the Red Dragon Emperor and hero of the supernatural world, was led by notable figures such as Ajuka Beelzebub and Seraphal Leviathan. This faction included many reincarnated devils inspired by Issei's rise to power, as well as pureblood devils who recognized his importance to the crumbling alliance. Opposing them was the anti-Issei faction, which believed in the supremacy of pureblood devils. This faction was led by the elders of the Devil Council and included many clan heads, such as Zeoticus Gremory and Surzex Lucifer. Once a beacon of hope, Surzex had succumbed to the prevailing disdain for reincarnated devils. The conflict proved devastating, with the number of remaining clans dwindling from 32 to 20, pushing the devils closer to a catastrophic scenario. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., Vice President Benjamin Asher and his security detail were engaged in a morning exercise. Running alongside him was Mike Banning, a former Army Ranger now serving in the Secret Service. Their light-hearted banter about football filled the air until a piercing scream from the nearby forest caught their attention. Instinctively, they moved to protect the vice president. As they approached the source of the scream, they discovered a pale, brown-haired boy lying against a tree, struggling to breathe. The Secret Service quickly secured the area, and Mike and Benjamin rushed to the boy's side, concerned for his well-being. The boy introduced himself as Issei before losing consciousness in Mike's arms, leaving both men puzzled about how a child ended up injured in the forest. After Issei was transported to the hospital, questions swirled in the minds of Mike and Benjamin regarding the circumstances that led to his injuries. Mike remained hopeful that Issei would recover, noting that while the injuries were serious, they were not life-threatening. Soon, a doctor approached them with an update on Issei's condition, indicating that he was awake and could be spoken to, providing a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. Benjamin Asher, the Vice President of the United States, entered the room with Mike Banning and 3 other security personnel. Inside, they found Issei, who appeared withdrawn and depressed. Benjamin introduced himself and inquired about Issei's name. Issei looked up, a hint of fear evident on his face, and shared that his name was Issei, but he did not provide a last name. Mike, trying to ease the tension, asked Issei about the circumstances that led to his near-fatal incident. Issei explained that he had been hunting for food, having survived on his own for about 10 months since arriving in the United States. Mike deduced that Issei was from Japan based on his name and appearance, prompting him to question why Issei was not at home with his family, who would surely be worried. Issei revealed that his parents had disowned him, stating they would not care for a stain on their family. He had managed to leave Japan with enough funds to book a flight to the United States. The men in the room were taken aback by Issei's revelation. He was far too young to be navigating such a harsh world alone. Mike asked if Issei had any friends who could help him, but Issei preferred not to involve them in his troubles. When asked about the reason for his disownment, Issei indicated that it was a long story and questioned whether the vice president and Mike had the time to listen. Benjamin assured Issei that they had time, encouraging him to share his story. Issei chuckled lightly, acknowledging that his tale might seem unbelievable. He began recounting his life in the small town of Kuo, on the outskirts of Greater Tokyo, Japan. He described himself as a simple young man with dreams of becoming a HRM king, a goal inspired by his grandfather. Issei detailed his harrowing experiences, starting with his murder on a first date with Rainier, his battles to rescue Asia, defeating Riser, and freeing Rias from an arranged marriage. He spoke of his encounters with powerful foes, including Kokabeel, and how he achieved a fragile peace among the 3 factions. He recounted his time in the underworld during a young devil's gathering, where he survived a confrontation with Fenrir, and his return home to participate in his school's sports festival. He shared the story of his trip to Kyoto, where he rescued the Yukai Queen and fought a formidable opponent, ultimately earning a promotion to mid-class devil. Issei explained the class system of the supernatural world and the challenges he faced during his promotion test, where he was struck by a deadly arrow but survived due to the sacrifices of past wielders of his sacred gear. Issei described his resurrection, enhanced by the flesh of the Dragon of Dreams, and his involvement in the Vampire Civil War and the Evil Dragon War, culminating in a confrontation with Trihexa. He posed a question to the men about their knowledge of the Beast of the Apocalypse, which Mike recognized as a biblical figure signifying the end of the world. Issei revealed that this beast had been unleashed, presenting the greatest threat he had ever faced. He explained that it was ranked among the strongest entities, alongside his surrogate father, Great Red, the Dragon of the Apocalypse. The beast had been released by Rizavim Lucifer, Issei's rival's grandfather, who sought to destroy the world and reshape it. After Rizavim's death, he attempted to control the beast with his soul, leading to chaos. Issei and his allies worked to seal the beast away, and he fought with everything he had to ensure their survival. In a surprising turn, Issei shared that he ultimately killed the beast, saving countless lives. However, he faced a harsh reality afterward, discovering that many in the faction alliance had merely used him as a tool for their own survival. Issei had been discarded by the alliance, his pawn pieces, which had become part of him, forcefully ripped away, leaving him in immense pain. Following this, his HRM of 9 broke his heart multiple times, as 6 of the girls ended their relationships with him, deeming him useless since there was nothing left for him to fight for. His parents disowned him, and this was how he found himself in the United States. As Issei finished recounting his story, the atmosphere in the room grew somber. The details of his past had left Asher and Mike feeling furious about how Issei had been treated. Issei mentioned that if they did not believe him, he could have his partner, Drake, show them his memories. He explained that Drake was his best friend and partner, sharing the title of Red Dragon Emperor, and was the Welsh Dragon of Domination. Drake had been with him since the beginning of his journey. When Issei called out to Drake, his partner responded warmly, expressing relief to hear from him again. Issei introduced Drake to the men in front of him, explaining that he wanted Drake to show them his memories. Drake hesitated but ultimately agreed to project Issei's life for all to see. As the memories unfolded, it became clear that Issei had been telling the truth, evoking feelings of sympathy from those present. Mike expressed his sorrow for Issei's experiences, stating that he deserved better. Issei acknowledged that he had received support from a few factions, specifically naming the Shinto, Norse, Hindu, and Angel factions, while he had lost faith in the Yukai faction due to their betrayal. Benjamin listened intently and, after Mike made a heartfelt suggestion, offered to adopt Issei alongside his wife, promising that they would not abandon him like others had. Tears welled in Issei's eyes as he considered the offer, feeling a glimmer of hope for a family once again. He expressed his longing for the adoption, and Mike assured him they would proceed as soon as possible. Issei then requested that Benjamin keep the information he had shared confidential, understanding the obligations that came with Benjamin's position. Benjamin assured Issei that he would honor his request. After Benjamin left the room to make a call to his chief of staff, the highest levels of the U.S. government were informed of Issei's revelations, which were classified as top secret due to their sensitive nature. Meanwhile, chaos was spreading among the factions. The Yukai faction lost the support of the Shinto faction after their betrayal of Issei, who had once risked his life for them. Amaterasu personally delivered a message to Yasaka, reminding her of Issei's sacrifices. The Norse, Angel, Shinto, and Hindu factions united under a new agreement called the Red Dragon Accord, designed to protect one another. This accord was reminiscent of NATO's Article 5, stating that an attack on one faction would be considered an attack on all. Meanwhile, the vampire faction faced a surprise attack from the Khaos Brigade, resulting in the capture and tragic fate of Valerie Teeps. As the Gremory peerage fought on the front lines of the Second Civil War, Grafia, Venelana, and Milica sought refuge in Lucifuge territory, far from the conflict. In the Oval Office, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Deputy Director of the National Security Agency were gathered, waiting for a meeting to commence. Benjamin Asher, President Barack Obama, Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan, Speaker of the House Alan Trumbull, and Mike Banning were present, along with several members of Asher's Secret Service detail. Barack confirmed that everyone was accounted for and inquired about the information Benjamin wished to share. Benjamin explained that during his morning run, he had encountered a boy no older than 18 who had revealed information that could change everything they knew about the world and their beliefs. Alan asked how this information would change their understanding, and Benjamin asserted that all pantheons and gods from various religions truly existed, along with the supernatural. Ray Monroe, skeptical, dismissed Benjamin's claim as a joke, but Benjamin insisted it was the truth, confirmed by the boy. Alan asked for the boy's name, while Ruth questioned the necessity of having the Secret Service present for the discussion. As the situation unfolded, Ruth McMillan, the Secretary of Defense, listened intently to Benjamin, who detailed the extraordinary circumstances surrounding a boy named Issei. This boy had been disowned by his family for reasons that remained undisclosed, and he had been found injured in the forest just outside Washington, D.C., following a hunting accident. Benjamin explained that Issei had revealed astonishing truths about the existence of devils, angels, fallen angels, and gods. He had chosen to share this information with them, despite the potential danger, because he felt isolated and alone. The boy was not just an ordinary child. He was a war veteran who had fought in secret battles waged by supernatural beings for centuries, possibly even millennia. Benjamin elaborated on Issei's experiences, including his reincarnation as a devil and his involvement in significant events such as the Tri-Factional Peace Conference, the Youth Devil Conference, the Demonic Beast Riot, the Vampire Civil War, and the Evil Dragon War. The gravity of Issei's experiences left the room in disbelief. Benjamin continued, explaining that during the Evil Dragon War, the son of Lucifer had unleashed the Beast of the Apocalypse, a creature prophesied to bring about the end of the world. Against all odds, Issei and the faction alliance had managed to defeat this formidable beast, saving both the human world and the supernatural world. However, this victory had come at a great personal cost to Issei, as he was subsequently cast aside by the majority of the alliance, exiled, and disowned by his family, which deeply affected him. Ray expressed skepticism about the extraordinary claims being made, prompting a sudden interruption. A red-haired man and a black-haired woman emerged from a portal, startling everyone present. The man introduced himself as Great Red, while the woman identified herself as Ophis. They revealed that they were Issei's surrogate parents and explained their purpose for being there. Great Red, the dragon god of dreams, and Ophis, the dragon god of infinity, intended to help the group understand Issei's situation better by sharing his memories. As they witnessed Issei's past, those who were previously unaware of his struggles were left in shock. Ophis expressed hope that the group would now comprehend the gravity of Issei's circumstances. Benjamin, recognizing the need for action, suggested that Mike had already taken the initiative to adopt Issei into his family, and he hoped everyone would support this decision. The Joint Chiefs of Staff agreed, emphasizing the importance of treating Issei as a person rather than a weapon, acknowledging the upheaval he had faced. Mike committed to training Issei once he was out of the hospital and mentioned that Issei had expressed a longing to change his name to Issac Banning. The room nodded in agreement, and the meeting was dismissed. Benjamin remained behind to discuss the situation further with Barak, who was still processing the information. Barak reflected on the resilience Issei had shown despite the immense challenges he had faced. Benjamin reassured him that Issei still had support from various factions, including the Shinto faction, which regarded him as a surrogate son. Other factions, such as the Hindu and Norse factions, also maintained ties with him. Barak recognized the potential consequences of the faction alliance's decision to discard someone as valuable as Issac and understood the need to redirect resources to ensure their safety. Benjamin speculated that the Vatican would likely be aware of Issei's situation, prompting Barak to suggest a meeting with key government officials to discuss the next steps. As the conversation concluded, both men hoped that the revelations they had uncovered would not lead to unforeseen complications. After graduating from high school with top marks, Issac chose to follow in his father's footsteps by enlisting in the United States Army. He endured the grueling 10-week Army boot camp, drawing on his past experiences to navigate the challenges. Following boot camp, he received specialized training, particularly from Army Rangers who had fought alongside Mike. Under Mike's rigorous training, Issac became highly skilled with melee weapons, especially knives. His proficiency was evident when he single-handedly took down more than 10 Taliban insurgents using only a knife. Issac also demonstrated exceptional leadership and tactical abilities, successfully leading his squad in ambushing a company of Taliban insurgents. His adaptability shone during a tour in Syria when he faced an ambush from both Assad's loyalists and Wagner mercenaries in an active minefield. He cleverly created a smokescreen by detonating mines, skillfully maneuvering through the chaos to eliminate his attackers. Due to his remarkable exploits, Issac received a recommendation to join Delta Force, marking the beginning of a promising and challenging new chapter in his life. Before accepting his new role, the White House faced an attack from a North Korean terrorist organization known as the Koreans for United Freedom, or KUF. Issac joined his father in confronting the terrorists, and their swift actions led to the rescue of President Benjamin Asher within 8 hours. The father-son duo eliminated the KUF members efficiently, carrying the president out of the devastated White House while the world watched. A month after the KUF incident, Issac was accepted into Delta Force after a rigorous selection process. He underwent extensive training, focusing on stealth, marksmanship, and demolitions. His skills as a sniper improved significantly, with his daily kill count reaching up to 18 targets. His official records indicated over 645 confirmed kills, with 387 achieved using a sniper rifle. However, his classified records revealed a staggering total of more than 2,500 insurgents, mercenaries, and terrorists eliminated. During a trip to London with his father, Issac intended to visit Irina and her family, who were also hosting Rosweiss. However, their plans were disrupted by another terrorist attack. Once again, the father-son team defended President Asher against the assailants in London, despite the tragic loss of close friends, including former Secret Service Director Lynn Jacobs. When Asher was kidnapped, Issac and his father led an SAS squad to the terrorist stronghold. With the assistance of the SAS and British authorities, they successfully neutralized the majority of the Barkawi-led attack, culminating in a drone strike in Sana'a, Yemen, that eliminated Amir Barkawi. Later, when Issac's father was wrongfully accused of attempting to assassinate President Alan Trumbull, Issac and his grandfather worked to clear his name. They confronted Wade Jennings, the leader of Salient Global, who had a vendetta against Trumbull due to the administration's stance on military intervention. This investigation also led to the arrest of Vice President Martin Kirby for treason and corruption, as Jennings had kept detailed records of Kirby's involvement. After Lynn Jacobs' death, Issac's father was promoted to director of the Secret Service, and Issac was assigned to the Presidential Protection Detail under his father's leadership and President Trumbull's administration. 9 years after the defeat of the Khaos Brigade and the end of the Evil Dragon War, the Banning family home in Washington, D.C. was bustling with activity early one morning. Mike and Issac Banning, both Secret Service agents, were preparing for a morning run. Mike, now the director of the Secret Service, noticed that Issac seemed distracted lately and encouraged him to share his thoughts. Issac hesitated but eventually admitted to experiencing flashbacks about his past and missing his old friends, reflecting on how his previous behavior had affected him. As they completed their run and returned home, they found Leah, Issac's mother, preparing breakfast for their younger siblings, Lynn and Lilith, who were getting ready for school. The family exchanged morning greetings, and Leah reminded Mike not to forget his medication before they headed out for the day. Later, in the Oval Office, Mike, Issac, President Alan Trumbull, General Edward Clegg, and D.C. Mason, the White House Chief of Staff, were discussing plans for an upcoming state visit to Japan. Mike outlined the itinerary, detailing the reception by the Prime Minister and a meeting with the Emperor at the Imperial Palace, emphasizing the heightened security measures that would be in place. Clegg noted that this visit was also significant for the U.S. as it aimed to officially join the Red Dragon Accord. General Edward Clegg inquired about the situation regarding the other factions. Issac responded that the information he had received was unclear, but according to Vale and Suzuku, the circumstances among the other factions were quite dire. He explained that the Yukai Queen Yasaka had been compelled to resign after her faction was annexed by the Eastern Yukai faction. Princess Kunu would only be able to ascend to the throne once she reached maturity. In the meantime, Yamato was maintaining her position as the leader of the Yukai faction, as she was another kitsune. Isaac speculated that this was a punishment from his mother and the Shinto faction. Yasaka was relegated to managing the ley lines of Kyoto until Princess Kunu could take over, a sacrifice made to regain the patronage and protection of the Shinto faction. Regarding the devils, Isaac noted that the Second Civil War was still ongoing, though it had not yet spilled over into the overworld. The number of pillar clans had diminished from 32 at the end of the First Civil War to 20, suggesting a potential mutually assured destruction scenario. However, signs indicated that a ceasefire might be forming soon. The faction that supported Isaac had suffered fewer losses compared to the opposing faction, which consisted mainly of pure-blood devil fighters. The vampire faction had been unusually quiet, especially given their previous vocal opposition to Isaac's exile alongside the devil faction. Little information was emerging from Romania. The fallen angel population had sharply decreased following the attack on Grigori. Isaac speculated that a terrorist group might be behind these assaults, but without Trihexa, they were limited in their capacity to cause damage. When Shemhazai, Barakil, and Sahariel recovered, Azazel was advised against stepping down from his position due to the dire circumstances. Unlike the devils, who were bound by the evil pieces system, the angels allowed for the possibility of release, maintaining support for those who chose to leave. In the Greek territories, rumors circulated about an individual attempting to release the Titans from Tartarus, potentially reigniting the Great Greek War. Meanwhile, the factions within the RDA had fortified their security in response to recent events. Isaac learned from Irina and Rosweiss that key areas, such as the Trees of Knowledge and Life in Heaven, as well as the World Tree in Asgard, were being secured. Alan Trumbull, the president, expressed concern about the developments, suggesting that something significant was happening in the shadows, particularly concerning the devils and fallen angels. He asked Isaac if he would ever trust them again. Isaac reflected on the nature of devil society, describing it as regressive. He recounted the story of Kuroka, who had killed a minor lord of the Nabirius clan to protect her sister, only to be hunted down ruthlessly. Isaac believed he should have been recognized as a high-class devil much earlier than he was, especially after his involvement in the Youth Devil Conference where he had fought Loki and sealed him with Mjolnir. The room acknowledged Isaac's reasoning for his distrust of the other factions outside of the Red Dragon Accord. Alan understood that trust, once broken, is difficult to restore. Mike noted that it had taken time for Isaac to view him and Leah as his parents due to his deep-seated trust issues. Isaac admitted to having a nagging feeling about an upcoming trip, a sensation he had experienced before the demonic beast riots and prior to their departure for Romania. As Isaac and Mike exited the Oval Office, Isaac's phone rang. A familiar voice greeted him, asking how he was doing. Isaac confirmed he had just left the Oval Office and inquired if something was wrong. The caller mentioned being in town and suggested meeting for lunch. Isaac agreed, and the caller promised to send the location. They exchanged light banter before the conversation ended, with Isaac promising to relay a message to his father. Mike inquired about the caller, and Isaac explained that it was Naomi, who wanted to meet for lunch. Mike expressed his approval of the plan. The two individuals needed their time to catch up. Isaac acknowledged his sister's greeting as they continued their walk to debrief the security detail that would accompany Trumbull to Tokyo for the state visit. Meanwhile, in the underworld, a different situation was unfolding. The Second Devil Civil War had been raging for nearly a decade, coinciding with Issei's exile by the Alliance. The pro-Issei and anti-Issei factions were locked in a stalemate, with neither side gaining any ground. Many notable figures had fled the fighting, including Graphia Lucifuge, Milica's Lucifuge, Venelana Lucifuge, and Amanda Phoenix. Venelana had taken on her daughter-in-law's last name after divorcing Zeoticus Gremory, who, along with the Council, Rias, and Surzex, had decided to cast Issei aside after he killed Trihexa, viewing him merely as a tool. This decision angered many of Issei's friends and supporters, including Venelana, who regarded him as a son, Graphia, who saw him as a little brother, and Milikas, who looked up to Issei. At the headquarters of the pro-Issei faction, Sona, Serorg, Sikvera, Latia, and Riser were meeting with Serafal, Ajuka, and Falbium to discuss their next steps. The room, which had been filled with noise and information just moments before, fell silent. Ajuka assessed the situation, noting that the anti-RD faction had been cornered. He explained that their opponents were primarily composed of pillar soldiers who had not trained adequately, allowing the pro-Issei faction to push them back effectively. Serafal added that the only reason the anti-RD faction remained in the fight was due to Surzex and Andrew Bale, who wielded the power of destruction. As Serafal outlined their next plan of attack, Ajuka's queen, Enterprise, entered the room with urgent news. She reported that their informants within the anti-RD faction had indicated that unknown assailants had attacked them, and it was not one of their own. The room fell into shock as Enterprise revealed that half the Devil Council was dead, including Zeoticus Gremory, Andrew Bale, and Edward Phoenix. Ajuka sought more information, but before they could discuss further, Yamato, Serafal's queen, appeared through a blue Leviathan circle, battered and bruised. Serafal rushed to her side, concerned for her well-being. Yamato managed to convey that the Lucifuge territory had been attacked and that Graphia, Milikas, Venelana, Amanda, and Claire had all been taken. She had been ambushed and, overwhelmed by her injuries, passed out as she was taken to the infirmary. Falbium presented a photo from the other side, revealing that the same note, stating "Chaos will reign," had been left there. Ajuka expressed his confusion over the implications of these attacks, recalling that the Grigori, vampires, Greeks, and now their faction had all been targeted. Sona speculated whether the Khaos Brigade had returned, prompting a discussion about the brigade's previous defeat when Trihexa was killed by Hyoudou. They noted that while many brigade members had been defeated, Euclid and Walburga had been arrested, but the recent attack on the Grigori suggested that Walburga might have been freed. Ajuka confirmed that Euclid was missing and that the Holy Grail had been extracted from Valerie Teeps, resulting in her death. The group realized that this could allow for the revival of old brigade leaders, such as Kateria, Shalba, Krusuri, and even Rizavim. A soldier then entered with a message from Governor Azazel, revealing that Kokabil had been broken out of Cocytus by an unknown assailant. Ajuka acknowledged the information and decided that the Alliance needed to be informed of these developments. He emphasized the importance of uniting the Devil race once again, rather than remaining divided into warring factions. Serorg then mentioned that Surzex wanted a ceasefire between their factions. In a different location, Isaac entered a restaurant and spotted a 30-year-old woman waving at him. This was Naomi Banning, formerly known as Naomi Hyde, his older sister and the eldest of the 4 Banning children. Isaac greeted her warmly, and she inquired about his well-being. Naomi expressed her disappointment at not receiving a hug, prompting Isaac to explain that as a Secret Service agent, he sometimes refrained from such gestures. Eventually, he relented, and they shared a heartfelt embrace. As they settled down to eat, Isaac asked Naomi about her upcoming deployment to Hyakuri AFB, to which she replied that there had been a delay, and they would now leave in 2 days. They discussed their family, including their father, who was working hard in his role as director. Isaac mentioned his concerns about visiting Japan for the state visit, especially since their mother would likely want him to visit the Heavenly Plains after 10 years apart. Naomi understood their mother's longing to see Isaac, especially after hearing about his accomplishments in Delta Force. They continued to chat about family matters, and Isaac invited Naomi to join them for dinner that evening. After sending a message to their mother, he confirmed that Naomi would be expected at dinner, and she expressed her excitement about the reunion. Lunch had arrived, and Isaac was eager to begin. In an unknown location, Venelana, Graphia, Milikas, Amanda, and Claire found themselves on the floor, restrained by magical cuffs that nullified their powers. The atmosphere was tense as an unfamiliar figure commanded the removal of their coverings. As their faces were unveiled, Graphia's heart sank at the sight of someone she believed was long gone. Kokabil stood before them, greeting Graphia with a twisted sense of pleasure. He taunted her about her lost power and hinted at the sinister plans that awaited them, revealing that others had more elaborate designs for their fate. Amanda and Milikas expressed their disbelief and defiance, but Kokabil dismissed their protests with cruel laughter, reminding them of their allies' exile and the betrayal they had shown. Euclid, a figure of authority among their captors, explained the absence of the Secure UDI and Hakuryuku, emphasizing that their lack of support left the hostages vulnerable to chaos. He welcomed them back to the Khaos Brigade, a name that sent shivers down their spines. Claire attempted to rally hope, but the grim reality of their situation weighed heavily on them. The hostages were shocked to see Ryzavim, a figure thought to be dead, standing before them. He revealed that he had been resurrected thanks to his loyal followers and expressed his intentions for Milikas, who possessed remarkable powers inherited from his parents. Ryzavim's cruel examination of Milikas turned violent when the boy resisted, leading to a brutal beating that left Grafia and Venelana helpless and horrified. As the chaos unfolded, Ryzavim ordered his subordinates to prepare for an attack on the human world, specifically targeting Tokyo, Japan. They discussed their plans to make a grand statement during an upcoming meeting between world leaders, plotting to strike at the heart of human governance. 3 weeks later, aboard Air Force One, President Trumbull and his delegation finalized the details of their visit to Japan. Trumbull requested Isaac to stay behind for a moment, acknowledging the hard work he and his father had put into ensuring the trip's success. He insisted that Isaac take a day off, recognizing that it had been nearly a decade since he had been home. Isaac hesitated, feeling a strange familiarity with the Japanese Prime Minister, Taiko Sawada, but could not place it. Trumbull encouraged him to relax and enjoy his time away from work, while Drake, the boosted gear, confirmed that Isaac's memories were too blurred to clarify the connection. Meanwhile, in the Sawada home, preparations were underway for the upcoming state visit. Prime Minister Taiko Sawada reviewed the schedule, which included a formal reception for President Trumbull and various diplomatic engagements. After a conversation with his daughter Ayane, who informed him about the bustling activity at Hyakuri Air Force Base, Taiko expressed concern over the long absence of his cousins, Miki and Goru, who had severed ties with the family years ago. As the day of the visit approached, the tension between the two worlds grew, with dark forces plotting in the shadows while the leaders prepared for their meeting. Ayane Sawada understood that her cousin, Issei, had a mischievous side, but that did not diminish the love they shared as family. She often wondered about his whereabouts, just as her father did. As a high-ranking officer, she received a call indicating that officers from both sides were being summoned for an important meeting. With a sense of duty, she prepared to leave, wishing her father good luck in his endeavors. At Hyakuri Air Force Base in Greater Tokyo, the atmosphere was charged with activity as higher-ranked officers gathered for a crucial meeting. Ayane was among those called, respected not only as the Prime Minister's daughter but also for her dedication to serving her country. As she approached the meeting area, she noticed 4 familiar faces from her school days. Hughes Motohama and Ken Matsuda, once known for their playful antics, were conversing with Yui Kates and Kaori Murayama, the former captains of the Kendo Club. Motohama remarked on the bustling environment, noting the presence of the United States military, which coincided with the state visit of their president. Kates acknowledged the significance of the occasion, while Murayama reflected on how, a decade ago, none of them would have imagined their current paths in the military, especially considering that 2 of them were engaged. Matsuda expressed concern about Issei, reminiscing about their friendship despite their past mischief. Murayama reassured them that Issei was likely doing well, but Motohama's unease lingered as he speculated about Issei's silence, suspecting it might be connected to Rias Gremry. Kates admonished him not to jump to conclusions, and just then, the officers were called to attention as Colonel Ayane Sawada entered the room to meet with Colonel Naomi Banning of the U.S. Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel Masahiko Nishimura of the U.S. Marine Corps, and Admiral Brandon Hiraku Quincy of the U.S. Navy. Ayane welcomed the distinguished officers to Hyakuri Air Force Base, expressing her pleasure in their presence. The officers exchanged salutes, and Naomi, acknowledging her cousin, remained silent but supportive. Admiral Quincy reciprocated Ayane's greeting, and Naomi expressed her hope for a productive collaboration in the coming months. Lieutenant Colonel Nishimura also conveyed his pleasure in meeting Ayane, setting a tone of camaraderie and cooperation among the gathered military leaders. Lieutenant Colonel Masahiko Nishimura led a trio of officers to his office to discuss the details of the upcoming joint drill exercises between their 2 militaries. As they walked, the former students from Kuo Academy recognized Naomi, who was Hyoudou's elder sister. They noted the resemblance between them and speculated about why she was not using the Hyoudou last name, with one suggesting that she might be married. They decided it would be a good idea to ask her about Issei when the opportunity arose. Meanwhile, in the pro-Issei faction headquarters in the underworld, the leaders of two warring devil factions were finalizing the details of a ceasefire agreement. Both factions had insisted on signing the ceasefire outside the underworld, opting for neutral ground in Kyoto, where it would be overseen by Amaterasu. Serafal expressed hope that they could finally end hostilities and move past the Second Civil War. Ajuka noted their good fortune in having Amaterasu agree to the location, though Sona remarked on the hostility in her voice when they proposed it. Sikvera pointed out that Hyoudou was a significant figure for Amaterasu, who treated him like a son. Flashbacks revealed the shock that Serorg and the others felt when they received Surzek's message about the ceasefire, considering it might be a trap. Ajuka suggested that the recent events within the alliance indicated a new threat that they needed to confront together. However, both factions had been denied the opportunity to sign the agreement in the underworld, as the Angels, Hindus, and Norse had all refused to get involved. This left the Shinto faction as their only hope for a neutral location. Ajuka reached out to Amaterasu, who was initially dismissive and questioned why her faction should assist them after being shut down by the others. Ajuka explained the urgency of the situation, mentioning that key leaders of the Khaos Brigade had escaped and that unity was essential to combat the new threat. Amaterasu's past experiences made her wary of trusting another ceasefire proposal, especially after the exile of her son. Ajuka apologized for any offense and reiterated the need for cooperation against the impending danger. Amaterasu agreed to consult with the other members of the Red Dragon Accord but warned Ajuka that any deception would have serious consequences. As the flashback ended, Ajuka reflected on the anger Amaterasu felt, understanding that their council had betrayed her son. He pondered how the United States had become aware of the supernatural events and expressed a longing for peace, despite the hurt caused by Rias and her peerage to Issei. He hoped to reach out to Issei and mend their relationship. Sona, the sole governor of Kuo, informed Ajuka that the new Air Force base in Kuo was operational, jointly managed by Japan and the United States. Ajuka warned her to be cautious, and Sona teleported back to Kuo. The next day, in downtown Tokyo, Isaac was exploring the city, reminiscing about how much it had changed since his last visit. He engaged in conversation with Draig and Trihexa, expressing his amazement at the size of Tokyo and the efficiency of its transportation system. Feeling hungry, he decided to find a nearby ramen shop and called Irina, eager to catch up with her. In the Imperial Palace, President Trumbull and Prime Minister Sawada were meeting with Emperor Hachiro to discuss important matters, signaling the ongoing diplomatic efforts between their nations. The Prime Minister addressed the recent nuclear tests conducted by North Korea, highlighting the growing concern and the need for proactive measures. Emperor Hachiro acknowledged the situation, noting that a bill would soon be signed to amend a part of the Constitution. This amendment would reorganize the current self-defense forces into a full-standing military, emphasizing the importance of not relying solely on the U.S. armed forces for protection. Allen understood the implications of the discussion, recalling the attack on the White House 7 years prior. This incident had necessitated an increase in internal security to prevent similar occurrences. He reflected on the heroics of Mike and Issac Banning, who had rescued then-President Asher, but recognized that such reliance on individuals highlighted vulnerabilities within their security systems. Later, at a ramen shop in downtown Tokyo, Isaac enjoyed his day off, relishing the feeling of being home. He was on a call with Irina, who expressed her happiness for him but playfully complained about his choice of timing for the call, especially while he was eating ramen. Irina, currently in Rome, felt a pang of hunger as she thought about her mother's ramen waiting for her back home. Isaac teased her about the pizza in Italy, which prompted a light-hearted exchange about accents and family memories. Isaac updated Irina on the well-being of their companions, Trihexa and Drake. He recalled a time when he had panicked upon discovering that Trihexa had become a sacred gear. The memory took him back 7 years to a night filled with training and preparation for deployment to Afghanistan, where he had to mentally prepare for the challenges ahead. In his mindscape, Isaac encountered Trihexa, a massive beast that had once been mindless due to a curse. Trihexa revealed that Issac had freed him from this curse when he had defeated him, and now they were bound as partners. This revelation filled Issac with a mix of disbelief and excitement as he processed the implications of becoming the dragon god of domination and the apocalypse. Back in the present, Issac was startled by an explosion outside the ramen shop. He quickly informed Irina, expressing concern and promising to call her back. As he stepped outside to investigate, he recognized the magic circles associated with the explosion, realizing that trouble was brewing. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Palace, Hachiro, Teiko, and Alan were still in discussion when Secret Service agents rushed in to evacuate them due to the explosion. The urgency escalated as they learned about the magic circles surrounding the palace. As they attempted to escape through an evacuation tunnel, they were confronted by powerful entities emerging from the magic circles. Kateria and Krusuri, along with others, threatened the leaders, demanding their capture while chaos erupted around them. Hachiro demonstrated his power by unleashing a lightning bolt, showcasing his abilities as they fought to escape the onslaught. The situation grew dire as they found themselves cornered by formidable foes, including Rizavim, Euclid, and Walburga, who blocked their path to safety. The tension mounted as the leaders prepared to confront the impending danger, their fates hanging in the balance. Kill them. Euclid and Walburga eliminated the remaining agents and guards as they took Hachiro, Teiko, and Alan. Walburga inquired about their destination, and Rizavim instructed them to take the captives to the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, where they would be held. With other guests. In Kyoto, Amaterasu observed a delicate process involving Kuroka and Suzaku, who were overseeing the ceasefire between the pro-Issei faction and the anti-Issei faction. After nearly a decade of conflict, the two factions had finally forged a peace treaty. Each side was led by a super devil. The pro-Issei faction was headed by Ajuka Beelzebub, accompanied by Sikvera Agars, Latia Astaroth, Riser Phoenix, and Sarorg Bale. Opposing them was Surzex Lucifer, along with Rias Gremory and her peerage. Amaterasu laid out the terms of the treaty, emphasizing that any fighting or provocation would nullify the agreement. Ajuka and Surzex both agreed, though Amaterasu sneered at Surzex, harboring resentment for his past actions against Issac. She then directed Kuroka and Suzaku to finalize the agreements. Akino and Kaneko watched as Kuroka and Suzaku ignored them, causing them to look down in shame. Once the leaders signed the agreement, Amaterasu added her signature, with Kuroka and Suzaku as witnesses. Just then, Kunu, now 18 and accompanied by Magari, burst into the room in a state of panic. Upon seeing the devils, she expressed her anger, questioning their presence after what they had done to her brother. Kuroka urged her to calm down, but Kunu remained furious, recalling the pain inflicted on Issac. Amaterasu attempted to soothe her daughter, and Magari quickly interjected with urgent news from Lord Issac in Tokyo. The message revealed that they were under attack, with Nilrem magic circles appearing above the Imperial Palace. Issac requested immediate assistance and mentioned that contact had been lost with Trumbull. The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Rias inquired about Issac, and Kuroka revealed that he was her fiancé, previously known as Issei. The Gremory group was taken aback by this revelation. Kuroka continued, confirming that the Khaos Brigade had returned and was making their move. Kunu explained that the attack coincided with a state visit involving high-profile figures, including Emperor Hachiro, Prime Minister Teiko Sawada, and U.S. President Alan Trumbull. Amaterasu realized the implications of the attack and instructed Kuroka to contact Susanoo immediately. At Hayakuri Air Force Base, Keitase, Murayama, Matsuda, and Motohama waited anxiously outside Naomi's office, eager to learn about Issei's whereabouts. When an officer exited, Naomi welcomed them in, surprised to see them. They saluted her, and she invited them to sit down. Matsuda posed a question about Issei, who had mysteriously left without any word. Just then, an emergency alert interrupted their conversation, warning of a terror attack in Japan and instructing residents in various Tokyo wards to take cover. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, Hachiro, Teiko, and Trumbull were brought in as the Khaos Brigade wreaked havoc in the palace. Hachiro was restrained with magic-nullifying cuffs. Ryzavim taunted the Emperor, preparing to introduce him to their other captives. The bags covering the Lucifuge and Phoenix family members were removed, revealing their horror at the situation. Greyfia confronted Ryzavim, demanding to know what he had done. Ryzavim suggested that it was time for the world to learn the whole truth, including the fate of Issei Hyoudou. Teiko's reaction was immediate and frantic, as he demanded answers about his nephew's well-being. Shalba responded with disdain, revealing his intentions for Teiko's fate. Euclid then addressed the citizens of Japan and the world, introducing himself as a devil. In the Pentagon's Situation Room, panic ensued as contact had been lost with Trumbull and his Secret Service detail during the state trip to Tokyo. At that moment, Vice President Zach Mason and House Speaker Lewis Hawthorne entered the Situation Room. Mike quickly addressed both men, informing them that due to the lack of information from Tokyo and the inability to communicate with President Trumbull or any of his detail, Zach and Lewis were now the acting president and vice president of the United States. As they took their seats, Zach inquired about the status of the military bases, seeking any updates. Mike assured them that they were working to establish contact with Kuo and Hyakuri Air Force Base to gather information. As they discussed the situation, all news channels suddenly went static before switching to a live broadcast featuring a single individual. Mike, Zach, Clegg, and Monroe recognized him immediately. Euclid Lucifuge, a devil, addressed the citizens of Japan and the world, announcing his intention to reveal a truth that had been hidden for millennia: the existence of the supernatural. He proclaimed that all religions, mythologies, and mythical creatures were real, shocking everyone, including the Prime Minister. In Kyoto, a group of powerful beings, including Amaterasu, Susanoo, and Surzex, watched in horror as Euclid spoke. They realized he was broadcasting from the Imperial Emergency Operations Center and feared he would expose the supernatural world to the public. Susanoo expressed disbelief at Euclid's intentions, while Amaterasu understood the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, at Hyakuri Air Force Base, soldiers were equally stunned by Euclid's claims. Naomi, one of the soldiers, confirmed that Euclid was serious, leaving her comrades in shock. Back at the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, Euclid began to tell a story about a boy from Japan, hinting that some viewers might know him, and even mentioned a family member present. In the Pentagon, Lewis and Zach were bewildered by Euclid's words, realizing the implications of his message. The story centered around Issei Hyoudou, a seemingly ordinary teenager whose life changed dramatically after a fateful encounter with a rogue fallen angel. He was transformed into a devil and moved into the supernatural world, where he fought for his newfound family and faced numerous challenges. As Issei battled stray devils within the palace, he grimaced at the unfolding narrative, feeling betrayed by Euclid's revelations. In the Situation Room, Mike confirmed the authenticity of the story, emphasizing that it detailed Issei's journey over the past decade. Euclid continued to recount Issei's struggles against various powerful beings, including gods and dragons. He described how Issei was revered by some factions while being despised by others for defying expectations. Despite his heroic deeds, Issei ultimately faced betrayal and abandonment by those he had fought to protect. As the broadcast continued, people around the world were left in awe, grappling with the reality of their beliefs and the truth of Issei's story. The revelation that their mythologies were real and intertwined with Issei's life left them speechless, marking a turning point in their understanding of the world. On that fateful day, the true nature of the factions and Issei's parents was revealed, leading to the disappearance of Issei, who had been missing ever since. As Euclid concluded his story, the Lucifuge and Phoenix families looked down in shame. Teiko was filled with anger over what had happened to Issei, while Hachiro wore a scowl, fully aware of the implications for his cousin. Trumbull directed a fierce glare at the leaders of the Khaos Brigade. Euclid pointedly addressed the Prime Minister, challenging the leaders to respond to the actions of their families against Issei. The silence that followed spoke volumes, revealing their inability to justify their actions. With that, Euclid indicated that his emissary, Lord Ryzavim, would now speak. Meanwhile, at Hyakuri AFB, Naomi was in tears as she processed the gravity of Issei's situation, comforted by her former classmates. Ayane, Brandon, and Masahiko entered her office shortly after, and Naomi sought solace from her cousin. Ayane expressed her frustration at Naomi's silence, emphasizing the importance of family support during difficult times. Naomi admitted she had not wanted to burden them, but Ayane reassured her that they were meant to help each other. As they discussed Issei's whereabouts, Naomi revealed he was in Tokyo, part of Trumbull's detail at Ground Zero, but had been given a day off to prepare for a meeting with the Shinto faction. Just then, a call came through, and Naomi answered as Colonel Banning. General Edward Clegg introduced himself, inquiring about contact with anyone inside Ground Zero. Naomi explained they were caught off guard by the Lucifuge's broadcast and were working with high-ranking military officials. Clegg informed them that the attack activated the defense treaty between Japan and the United States, allowing them to reveal their true forms when necessary. Brandon raised concerns about the potential for a situation reminiscent of a past crisis, while Mike noted the presence of hostages. Ayane suggested establishing a perimeter around the area, given the unpredictability of the supernatural terrorists. Naomi hoped for an inside man to assist them. Clegg confirmed that Joint Air Base Co. was on full alert and deployment was imminent. He warned them of the extreme danger posed by the brigade and instructed them to proceed with caution. After the call ended, Rizavim's voice echoed ominously, revealing that Tokyo was rigged with explosives, thanks to Milikas. He wished them luck in defusing the bombs, leaving the world in shock. As news spread, panic ensued in some regions, while leaders of the Red Dragon Accord factions took action to maintain peace. The Trimurti traveled to various cities in India to reassure citizens, while Odin addressed the Nordic countries, urging calm and promising assistance. In Europe and America, the Angel faction mobilized to ease the fears of their populations, with prominent figures appearing in major cities to maintain order. In Kyoto, Amaterasu, Susan, Tsukuyomi, Kuroka, and Suzuka strategized their next moves in light of the exposure of the supernatural world. Amaterasu assigned Susanoo to rendezvous with a special task force heading to Tokyo, emphasizing the urgency of finding and defusing the bombs to protect the millions of lives at stake. Surzex attempted to interject, concerned for his family, but Amaterasu firmly asserted her authority, warning him against any rash actions on Shinto territory. The tension was palpable as she made it clear that her people would take charge of the situation, holding Surzex accountable for the chaos that had unfolded. Meanwhile, Isaac arrived at the palace armory, ready to equip himself for the challenges ahead, determined to face the threat head-on. As Isaac stealthily maneuvered around a wall, he witnessed two rogue fallen angels attacking the remaining palace guards. They eliminated the guards with ruthless efficiency, prompting Isaac to prepare for an ambush. Seizing the moment when the rogues let their guard down, he struck from behind. One of the fallen angels managed to summon a light spear, but Isaac swiftly dispatched him, driving his knife through the angel's mouth and head while using his scales for protection. He muttered to himself about hoping to find some useful weapons in the vicinity. Meanwhile, at Joint Air Base Kuo, the atmosphere was tense. The base had received urgent orders from the JSDF command and the U.S. troops stationed there regarding an operation to reclaim Tokyo and neutralize the pod bombs that Rizavim had planted throughout the city. Everyone was on high alert. From her home office in Kuo, Sona observed the unfolding situation with concern. She understood that getting involved could jeopardize her position in Kuro, especially since she had taken on significant responsibilities after Rias and her peerage had abandoned Issei. Tsubaki, her loyal companion, noticed Sona's distress and inquired if something was wrong. Sona expressed her worries about the exposure of the supernatural world and the potential hostility they would face as devils, particularly in light of the Council and Gremory family's treatment of Issei. Tsubaki shared her concern about the aftermath, especially given the revelation that Issei had been disowned by his parents. Sona expressed her disdain for such parents, believing they did not deserve the title. Momo interrupted their conversation, alerting Sona to a gathering mob outside. Sona peered out the window and saw the crowd forming, carrying torches. Rhea speculated that an arson attack might be in the works, while Ruruko questioned where the mob would strike. Sona's eyes widened as she connected the situation to the Hyoudou family. She ordered Saji, Rhea, Momo, and Tomo to head to the Hyoudou home to check for anyone there, knowing that the family had been exposed for disowning Issei. Tomo warned that the mob would likely seek justice for their betrayal. At the Hyoudou home, Mickey and Gore hurriedly packed their belongings, realizing they were no longer safe after being exposed. Mickey lamented that the man who had once kidnapped them had returned and revealed their actions. Goru expressed his frustration and wondered why Issei had not sought them out again. Despite their past grievances, he questioned whether they had made a mistake in disowning him. Mickey regretted their decision but acknowledged they could not change the past. She hoped Issei was still alive and would find it in his heart to forgive them. They decided to flee as the mob approached, fearing for their safety. As Mickey and Goru escaped, Kuo, Saji, Rhea, Momo, and Tomo teleported to the Hyoudou home, starting their search in Issei's old bedroom. They quickly realized that the Hyoudou couple had fled, confirming their awareness of the mob. Saji remarked that they had clearly known about the impending danger, while Rhea expressed relief that no one would die there. Momo hoped that the brigade could be stopped before further chaos ensued. In the Imperial Palace armory, Issac had successfully gained access and was gathering weapons to reclaim the palace and rescue the hostages. He equipped himself with a Glock 34 pistol, an AR-15, and a Glock 22 pistol, feeling prepared for the upcoming confrontation. He communicated with Draig, his partner, asking if it was possible for Draig to boost his power without anyone noticing. Draig acknowledged the challenge but confirmed it could be done. As Issac prepared to leave, he overheard voices in the hall, familiar voices that sent a chill down his spine. They were part of the insurgents, and he recognized them as the fallen angels who had once tormented him. The fallen angels, emboldened by their revival, spoke of revenge against the Gremory family, unaware of Issac's presence. He decided it was time to confront them, feeling a surge of determination. The fallen angels, sensing his presence, demanded he reveal himself. Issac, with a hint of sarcasm, acknowledged one of them by name, revealing his identity as someone they had wronged in the past. The fallen angels were taken aback, recognizing the boy who had once been their target. In Kyoto, just minutes before 4 o'clock, a Lucifer circle materialized. In a room, bringing forth the remaining members of Team Valle, along with Rosweiss and Irina. Upon seeing the Gremory peerage and Surzex, the atmosphere shifted, with narrowed eyes and tension in the air. Amaterasu expressed her gratitude for their swift arrival and began outlining the plan, pleased that Valle referred to her as mother. She explained the strategy, knowing well the girls who cared for Issac and accepting them as her daughters-in-law. While the Gremory girls appeared downcast, Surzex was deep in thought, plotting his next move. He was determined to bring Hyoudou back to his sister, unwilling to accept any refusal. Amaterasu regarded Surzex with suspicion before shifting her focus to Valle and his team. She instructed them to rendezvous with Naomi and her squad, along with Iain's team. Irina expressed surprise upon learning that Iain was Naomi and Issac's cousin. Amaterasu confirmed this and explained that they would be working with Susanoo to defuse the bombs that Ryzavim had planted throughout the city. Meanwhile, Issac was inside the palace, attempting to reach the Imperial Emergency Operations Center to rescue Teiko, Hachiro, and Trumbull. Kunu interrupted with another message, which Amaterasu eagerly inquired about. Kunu relayed that Naomi had sent a request from the Pentagon for direct communication, indicating that it was not the preferred method of contact but necessary. Additionally, she shared a message from Issac, which contained a threatening remark directed at a certain witch who had been excommunicated. The group was taken aback by Issac's fierce declaration, realizing the extent of his hatred for Rainier, who had returned. Amaterasu urged her team to establish a connection for communication and inquired about the status of the government. Magari informed her that some ministers had been killed by the brigade prior to the attack, leaving the government in chaos. Princess Chiyo and her mother, Empress Megumi, were en route, their plane flying over Hokkaido. Amaterasu sighed in exasperation at the disarray surrounding them and dismissed Surzex, the Gremory peerage, and Ajuka's contingent, recognizing the gravity of the situation. She instructed Magari to redirect the plane to Kyoto, avoiding Tokyo airspace entirely, and to raise their energy sensors, sensing that Surzex was up to something. In the Imperial Palace, a quartet of fallen angels stood frozen with fear, particularly Rainier, as they faced a formidable opponent. Issac had undergone a transformation, donning new armor that was predominantly black with red accents, giving it a more demonic appearance. This was the Imperial Apocalyptic Balance Breaker of Trihexa. As he summoned the armor, the fallen angels attempted to flee, but Issac was too swift, easily surrounding and incapacitating them. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, Euclid monitored the palace cameras and reported to Ryzovim about a lone survivor within the palace. Ryzovim inquired about the individual's identity, and Euclid noted that he appeared Japanese but resembled a member of the U.S. Secret Service. Alan felt a sense of relief, recognizing Issac, while Hachiro and Teiko wondered who would dare to take such a risk. Ryzovim ordered Euclid to zoom in for a clearer view. As they scanned for Issac in their system, they determined he was neither an Imperial Guard nor a member of the Japanese Self-Defense Force, indicating he was a foreign intruder. Ryzovim then summoned Shalba, instructing him to bring Issac to him, or eliminate him if necessary. Ryzovim handed Shalba an arrow coated with Samel's venom, a sinister smile on his face. Shalba left the OC, unaware of Isaac's true identity. Ryzovim questioned who Issac was, eager to confront the intruder. Meanwhile, the Pentagon established a connection with Kyoto, where Amaterasu, Susanoo, Kunu, Magari, Team Valley, Rossweiss, and Irina gathered. Zach, Lewis, Mike, Clegg, and the rest of the Pentagon Situation Room observed the visuals from Kyoto. Zach expressed his honor in meeting Amaterasu and Susanoo, despite the circumstances. Amaterasu acknowledged the same sentiment and informed them that their intelligence from Tokyo was limited. However, they had discovered that several leaders of the old Satan faction had been resurrected, indicating that the brigade possessed the Sephiroth Grawl. Lewis inquired about the significance of the Grawl, and Irina explained that it was a high-tier sacred gear, also known as the Holy Grail, one of the holy relics used to break the seal of Trihexa. Mike asked what their next move should be just as a phone rang in the Situation Room, capturing everyone's attention. Amaterasu instructed them to answer, hoping for valuable information. Clegg identified the call as coming from inside the palace, but not from one of their phones. It was an Imperial phone. Zach ordered them to put it through. Upon answering, Issac identified himself as Epsilon 11, prompting a collective sigh of relief in the Situation Room. Mike confirmed Isaac's identity with a thumbs up to Kyoto, which also brought a sense of relief to the group there. Issac informed General Clegg that he had crucial information regarding a fallen angel who had previously introduced him to the supernatural world. Amaterasu was shocked to learn that she was alive, and Issac assured them that her group was dead for good this time, as he had ensured it. Rainier pleaded for her release, promising not to trouble him again. Issac recalled a lesson from his father about extracting information from individuals like her, referencing a past incident in Washington, D.C. He was prepared to apply that knowledge once more. The tension in the room was palpable as Rainier, bound to a chair, faced Issac, who had transformed significantly since their last encounter. The charred remains of her comrades lay nearby, their souls lost forever. Rainier, filled with desperation, revealed that the brigade's objective was to attack Tokyo and expose the supernatural world, inciting global panic. She explained that Euclid aimed to create distrust between humans and the factions, allowing the brigade to strike unnoticed. Issac, impatient and frustrated, pressed for more information. Rainier mentioned that several brigade leaders had been resurrected, including individuals from diverse backgrounds. Mike interjected, naming some of these leaders, prompting Issac to acknowledge the potential danger they posed. Amaterasu, a powerful figure, informed Issac that Team Valley would be dispatched to support their mission, emphasizing the need for caution as they approached the palace. As the call ended, Isaac's focus returned to Rainier, who was visibly terrified. Despite her pleas for forgiveness and her attempts to bargain for her life, Issac remained unmoved. He had no intention of forgiving her for the past. In a decisive moment, he unleashed a powerful attack, incinerating Rainier and ensuring her soul would never return. Meanwhile, in Kyoto, Amaterasu reached out to Hyakuri AFB to notify Naomi and her team of the impending support. The atmosphere shifted as the troops gathered for a briefing, eager to hear from their commanding officers. Admiral Brandon Quincy answered the call, recognizing Amaterasu's voice and expressing his readiness to assist. Amaterasu shared the good news that Issac, known as the Red Dragon Emperor, was inside the palace, igniting excitement among the troops. She explained that Team Vale, led by the White Dragon Empress, would soon arrive to aid in their mission. However, she cautioned against flying directly into the palace precinct due to the threat of being shot down. As Team Vale teleported in, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Vale joined the commanding officers to strategize their operation to reclaim Tokyo. The plan, dubbed Operation Catching Fire, aimed to leverage Issac's position within the palace to gain an advantage over the brigade. They discussed the need for holy bullets to combat the devils effectively, with Irina tasked to bless the ammunition. Naomi outlined their approach, dividing the forces into 4 major teams, each with specific objectives. The primary goal was to defuse the bombs planted throughout the city, while the secondary objective focused on rescuing key figures, including the president and prime minister. With the plan set in motion, the team prepared to take back control of the Japanese capital, ready to face the challenges ahead. As the mission commenced, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The joint task force was en route to the battle zone in Tokyo, with various teams mobilizing for the impending conflict. Susanoo and Tsukuyomi, 2 revered Shinto gods, arrived through a teleportation circle, and the JSDF soldiers greeted them with respect, following Vale's brief before boarding the helicopters. 25 minutes later, the operation was in full swing. Inside one helicopter, Naomi, Ayane, Brandon, Masahiko, Motohama, Matsuda, Murayama, and Keitase were prepared for the fight ahead. Matsuda expressed his concern for Issac, acknowledging that it was the first battle for some team members. Naomi reassured him, highlighting Issac's extensive experience against supernatural threats, including his legendary defeat of Trihexa. She emphasized the importance of focusing on the mission at hand, which involved neutralizing bombs while remaining vigilant against potential rogue fallen angels and stray devils. As the helicopter landed, the team disembarked, and Masahiko and Brandon revealed their true forms, Masahiko as a 9-tailed fox and Brandon as a dragon. Brandon commanded Alpha Team to move out, while Masahiko utilized his senjutsu to detect magical signatures, identifying 3 bombs located 800 meters ahead, along with several stray devils and rogue fallen angels. Ayane directed Matsuda and Murayama to take up sniper positions on a nearby building to provide cover for the ground team. As Alpha Team approached the first set of bombs, Matsuda and Murayama took their first shots, confirming contact with the enemy. Meanwhile, Sigma Team, consisting of Rosweiss, Biko, and Issei, joined forces with soldiers from JFB Kuro. Rosweiss greeted Aika, a fellow soldier, and inquired about her magical abilities. Biko alerted them to 4 bombs located 1.2 kilometers away, with multiple strays approaching. Rosweiss set up trap magic as they concealed themselves, ready to ambush the incoming threats. When the strays arrived, Susanoo unleashed his lightning, swiftly eliminating them. In Delta Team, which included Vale, Lefay, and Ingvild, soldiers spotted hostiles and a bomb. Vale prepared to distract the enemies with his balance breaker, allowing Lefay and Ingvild to proceed with defusing the bomb. As Vale activated his powers, the soldiers engaged the rogue fallen angels, taking them down with precision. Lefay and Ingvild, alongside bomb specialists, successfully defused the explosive device, signaling their progress. Meanwhile, Omega Team, consisting of Irina, Arthur, Kuroka, and Tsukuyomi, advanced with determination. They received updates over the radio about the successful defusal of a bomb by Delta Team and contact made by Alpha and Sigma teams. Kuroka alerted her teammates to the presence of strays and rogue fallen angels, while Irina infused her weapon with holy fire, preparing for the confrontation. Tsukuyomi rallied the team with a call to defend their city. As the 4 teams engaged the brigade's soldiers guarding the bombs, Issac, having dealt with Rainier, awaited his next target, Shalba Beelzebub. Sensing danger, he confirmed with Draig and Trihexa that Shalba possessed Samel's venom. Issac remained cautious as he navigated the halls, aware of Shalba's approach. Shalba, driven by vengeance, commanded his troops to search for Issac, unaware that they were under the control of the brigade. Observing their hollow eyes, Issac devised a plan to eliminate them stealthily. He moved silently, picking off the undead soldiers one by one with his knives, while Shalba grew increasingly frustrated by the dwindling numbers of his forces. In a moment of desperation, Shalba activated his family's signature ability, King of Flies, to locate Issac, finally spotting him. The tension escalated as the confrontation loomed, setting the stage for a decisive clash. Issac faced Shalba Beelzebub, a powerful figure who demanded his compliance, threatening death if he refused. Issac, unfazed, acknowledged Shalba's arrival, expressing his impatience. He taunted Shalba, recalling their past encounter during the riots, where he had defeated the Beelzebub descendant, a feat that seemed to infuriate Shalba. The tension escalated as Shalba vowed revenge, but Issac remained resolute, declaring that Shalba would pay for his attack on Tokyo. As the battle commenced, Issac skillfully dodged Shalba's magical assaults, landing powerful blows that caused Shalba to stagger. In retaliation, Shalba attempted to ensnare Issac with light traps, but Isaac's agility allowed him to evade them effortlessly. He mocked Shalba's weakness, questioning why he had been resurrected. Shalba's rage intensified, and he declared his intent to kill Issac. Realizing he needed to change tactics, Issac called upon Draig, his dragon partner, to activate his balance breaker. With a surge of power, Issac transformed into his iconic red armor, a sight familiar to many. Shalba, consumed by anger, unleashed more magical attacks, but Issac's speed and strength overwhelmed him. With a series of devastating punches, Issac broke Shalba's ribs, inflicting severe damage. Issac then summoned Durandal, a legendary sword, and began to incapacitate Shalba further, cutting off his arms and causing excruciating pain. Despite Shalba's attempts to rise, Issac continued his relentless assault, unleashing a powerful technique that summoned wyverns to divide Shalba's strength. The onslaught culminated in a devastating blast that sent Shalba crashing through multiple walls. In a moment of desperation, Shalba dropped an arrow laced with Samel's venom, hoping to use it against Issac. However, Issac recognized the ploy and dismissed it, revealing his own evolution in magic over the past decade. He explained that he had learned various forms of magic, including solar and holy magic, and was now prepared to make Shalba experience the pain he had endured. With a calculated move, Issac used his wind magic to lift the venomous arrow and aimed it at Shalba's chest. Upon impact, Shalba screamed in agony, realizing the severity of his predicament. Issac relished the moment, ensuring Shalba would suffer as he had. Just as Issac prepared to leave, he sensed another presence approaching. He swiftly dodged an attack and retaliated with a wind blast, striking his assailant. Recognizing Kateria Leviathan, another member of the Old Mao, Issac confronted her, ready to defend himself. Kateria dismissed him, but Issac had a message from Ingvild, which he delivered with disdain. Meanwhile, 6 kilometers from the Imperial Palace, Alpha Team was engaged in their mission. They had successfully defused bombs in their vicinity, with Masahiko and Brandon taking down stray devils and rogue fallen angels. Brandon unleashed flames upon their enemies, while Masahiko utilized jujitsu to poison the fallen angels, ensuring their demise. Keitase inquired about their distance from the palace, and Matsuda estimated they were approximately 6 clicks away. Above the chaos of the battlefield, Brandon pointed out the Nilrem magicians, led by Euclid Lucifuge. He emphasized the urgency of their mission, noting that they needed to address the bombs located in the east and north before anything else. Just then, an unexpected voice crackled through the radio, causing confusion among the teams. The voice belonged to Admiral Akagi of the maritime branch of the JSDF, who assured them that the bombs in northern Tokyo were under control. The other teams felt a wave of relief, realizing they had additional support. Akagi informed them that the bombs in the east had already been defused. Lavinia, a familiar voice to some, chimed in, explaining that they had been delayed due to a briefing by Lady Amaterasu. Tobio confirmed their objective was to surround the Imperial Palace, with Rosweiss clarifying that they would maintain a 3-kilometer perimeter while awaiting further instructions from Redeemer inside. Lavinia expressed her concern for Ikuan, and Iane reassured her that he was safe. Tobio was curious about Iane, who was identified as their cousin and a member of Alpha Team. Natsum inquired about the rest of the brigade, and Cookie pointed out that they were holed up inside the palace. Ika alerted them to the presence of hostiles ahead, prompting Rosweiss and Ika to prepare for action. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, the hostages remained unaware of the turmoil outside. Teiko struggled to confront his emotions regarding the Lucifuge and Phoenix families, particularly after learning about his nephew's harrowing experiences. Hachiro, noticing Teiko's distress, attempted to offer comfort, reminding him that now was not the time for grudges. Teiko expressed his anger and sorrow over his nephew's suffering at the hands of the factions, lamenting their failure to intervene sooner. Hachiro empathized, revealing a familial connection to Teiko's nephew, and urged everyone to remain calm and hopeful for rescue. In a different part of the city, Euclid was growing anxious about the lack of communication from Cat Area and Shalba. He consulted Rizavim about the situation, suggesting they consider reviving them if they were lost. Rizavim decided against that for now and called upon Mr. Kong to assist in identifying a straggler in the palace. Kong, surprised by his own revival, was informed by Teiko about the implications of Kang's past actions, particularly his involvement in a significant attack years prior. Rizavim then instructed Walburga to show Kong footage of the unidentified individual, which revealed Issac Banning's face. Kang's anger and fear were palpable, drawing the attention of the brigade leaders. He identified Issac as a formidable opponent, detailing his impressive military record and the threats he posed. Rizavim saw the potential in sending more forces to deal with Issac and ordered Barkawi and Jennings to confront him, with Kong accompanying them. The tension escalated as the cadre and Asmodeus' descendant prepared to engage. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Leah was awake, watching the news while her children, Lilith and Lynn, slept. She sensed a heightened presence around her home, likely from Mike or Clegg. As she anxiously hoped for her children's safety, a call came in. When she answered, she was relieved to hear Isaac's voice, confirming he was safe and inside Ground Zero. Leah's concern grew as she inquired about Naomi, and Issac reassured her that she was likely with a team defusing bombs. Leah's worry deepened when she heard Issac was facing Cat Area Leviathan, a powerful adversary. Issac assured her he was unharmed, revealing that he had just dealt with Shalba using a venomous arrow. As he prepared for battle, he transformed into a powerful form, showcasing his new armor, which left Cat Area astonished. With a swift and relentless assault, Issac overwhelmed her, demonstrating his strength and skill. He noted the irony of Kateria's fear despite her pride, leaving her in a state of shock as he continued his onslaught. Issac had recently returned from a challenging encounter, feeling slightly fatigued but determined to check on his family. He learned that his mother, Leah, informed him that his siblings, Lily and Lynn, were still asleep and his father had left for the Pentagon several hours earlier. Knowing the urgency of the situation, Issac decided to reach out to his father, aware that important matters were unfolding. He anticipated the arrival of Kokabeel and Krusuri, two significant figures in the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile, outside the Imperial Palace, 4 teams had regrouped approximately 5.5 kilometers away. Friends from Kuo Academy, along with several allies, prepared to move closer, establishing a perimeter around the palace at a pre-agreed distance of 3 kilometers. Emergency services were mobilized to assist those affected outside the danger zone, while news reporters began to gather information from the scene. The reporters relayed critical updates regarding the situation within the palace. There was uncertainty about the survival of anyone inside, aside from the hostages, which included prominent leaders such as Prime Minister Teiko Sawada, Emperor Hachiro, and U.S. President Alan Trumbull. The world was still reeling from revelations made by Euclid Lucifuge, one of the leaders of the attack, which had prompted a joint statement from various factions and nations. This statement confirmed the validity of Euclid's claims and expressed a united commitment to eradicate the Khaos Brigade, a group posing a significant threat. In response to the turmoil, citizens across Europe and Japan reacted with a mix of panic and determination. Many demanded that factions responsible for the exile of Issei Hyoudou, a hero now revealed to be central to the supernatural conflict, be barred from entering their countries. In Romania and Moldova, people armed themselves to confront the vampire faction, seeking justice for Issei. The leaders of the Red Dragon Accord factions released a statement affirming their commitment to protect their citizens and uphold the prohibition against the former faction alliance, which had betrayed Issei. They emphasized their resolve to eradicate the Khaos Brigade and ensure the safety of their nations. As the supernatural world became known to the public, the Red Dragon Accord acted swiftly to calm their populations. Key figures from various mythologies, now recognized as part of reality, were deployed to reassure citizens. In India, deities such as Brahma and Vishnu visited major metropolitan areas, while in Europe and the Americas, the Norse and Angel factions collaborated to provide support. In Japan, the J-Alert system effectively communicated messages of reassurance, and it was anticipated that Lady Amaterasu, the Shinto goddess of the sun, would soon address the nation, with her message broadcast worldwide. In light of these unprecedented events, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg issued a statement acknowledging the discovery of supernatural phenomena across member states. He assured the public that NATO was prioritizing the safety and security of citizens, initiating coordinated efforts to understand and respond to these developments. A dedicated task force was formed to investigate and establish protocols for managing the emerging challenges, while NATO worked closely with international partners to ensure transparency and information sharing. Stoltenberg urged calm and cooperation as they navigated these new realities. Further updates would be provided as understanding deepened. Recent news reported that Romanian citizens were being exploited by vampires, who treated them as blood sources and slaves. In response, NATO sent aid to the Romanian government after Bucharest declared the vampires a threat to both national and international security. Secretary-General Stoltenberg emphasized the necessity of activating Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which states that an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. He declared that action would be taken against the vampire faction to protect the people of Romania from such atrocities. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also addressed the situation following the attacks in Tokyo and the revelation of the existence of supernatural beings. He expressed shock at the attacks carried out by the Khaos Brigade, which had affected key figures, including the Emperor of Japan and the President of the United States. Guterres acknowledged the unsettling reality of the supernatural's involvement in their world and stated that the United Nations would collaborate with various organizations and alliances to gain a better understanding of the situation. He also expressed concern for the plight of humans in the Transylvanian mountains, where vampires were exploiting them, and announced that military assistance in the form of UN peacekeepers would be sent to Romania. In Lucifer Castle, Surzex watched the news with anger. The recent events had followed a series of calamities, including the Second Civil War, which had cost them noble houses, and the exile of Issei. He had underestimated the consequences of Issei's exile and did not foresee the exposure brought about by the Khaos Brigade. Surzex vowed that Issei would return to his sister and reclaim his role as her pawn for the sake of their faction. Meanwhile, the cadres at Grigori felt shame for their decision to exile Issei. They recognized it as a mistake, especially now that the supernatural world had been exposed and the human world was rallying behind the Red Dragon Accord. Azazel felt the weight of regret as Vala's words echoed in his mind, reminding him of the day they had decided to exile Issei. At the Pentagon, officials monitored the news after Zach and Lewis released a joint statement with other countries and RDA factions. Mike discussed the situation with Leah, who informed him about Isaac's encounters with Shalba and Cat Area. Leah reassured General Clegg that security was stable, noting that one of the Seraphim, Gabriel, had placed a protective barrier around the house. As the news transitioned to an address from Lady Amaterasu, the leader of the Shinto faction and current leader of Japan, Mike prepared to listen intently. Amaterasu addressed the people of Japan and the world, emphasizing that the attack on Tokyo marked a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict. She urged the citizens of Tokyo to remain indoors and assured them that emergency teams were mobilizing to assist the injured. Amaterasu's message to the Khaos Brigade and Rizavim Lucifer was clear. They had made a grave mistake and they would face the consequences of their actions. Lewis noted the rightful anger of Lady Amaterasu, while Clegg suggested an internal deployment of the National Guard. Zack agreed, recognizing the need for readiness in response to the chaos unleashed by the brigade. He ordered the activation of nuclear silos, preparing for a decisive counterstrike. In a mobile command center established by the Joint Task Force outside the Imperial Palace, Brandon and Naomi communicated with the Pentagon. They reported that they had reached their target perimeter but could not proceed with a frontal assault due to the presence of Nilrem magicians. They awaited further instructions while discussing the involvement of Lord Susanoo and Lord Tsukuyami, who were coordinating with Lady Amaterasu on the next steps. Princess Chiyo and Empress Megumi were also en route to the palace, escorted by an armored convoy. As discussions continued, Susanoo and Tsukuyami entered the command center to update the Pentagon. They revealed that underground bombs had been detected and would be neutralized, indicating that these explosives posed a significant threat. The teams were prepared to utilize the metro tunnels for their operations, with Team Slashdog and Team Lucifer actively engaged in the mission. The situation had become a waiting game, with all parties poised for the next move in the unfolding conflict. As the situation escalated, Brandon received urgent orders regarding NATO's Article 5, which was to be activated due to alarming reports from Romania. Citizens near the Transylvanian mountains had been exploited as blood sources and forced into servitude. The Romanian government was to receive assistance in addressing this crisis. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, Euclid, Walburga, and Rizavim watched Amaterasu's speech. Rizavim scoffed at it until Euclid received critical alerts about the status of the power of destruction bombs. Euclid informed Rizavim of the troubling news that their subterranean bombs had been discovered and were being disabled. Rizavim ordered immediate detonation, but Euclid reported that all the bombs had been rendered inactive. Frustration filled Rizavim as he cursed the Alliance, relieved that a large-scale disaster had been averted. Later, in the Imperial Palace throne room, Issac faced a familiar cadre and a Mao descendant. He recognized Kokabeel, who wore an amused expression, eager for a fight, while Krusuri maintained a proud demeanor. Issac sensed that this confrontation would not be straightforward. Kokabeel acknowledged Issac as the one disrupting their plans and preventing their complete control of the palace. Issac retorted, noting Kokabeel's unchanged nature, which only fueled the tension between them. As the confrontation escalated, Krusuri threatened Issac, who dismissed the warning, recalling how others had met their demise. Kokabeel, angered by Isaac's taunts, launched a light spear at him, but Issac effortlessly deflected it. He challenged Kokabeel to bring forth the bravado he had once displayed, reminding him of his previous humiliating defeat. Recognizing Issac as Sekirai, Kokabeel's anger intensified. Issac prepared for battle, activating his boosted gear, which amplified his strength significantly. He charged at Kokabeel, taking the offensive and pushing him back while also engaging Krusuri with powerful magic attacks. Krusuri underestimated Isaac's resolve, leading to a fierce exchange. In a display of strength, Issac transformed into a bulkier armor form, delivering a devastating punch to Krusuri that sent him crashing through a wall. Turning his focus back to Kokabeel, Issac unleashed a barrage of punches that overwhelmed the cadre, causing him severe injury. Kokabeel struggled to comprehend Isaac's newfound power as he fought to defend himself. Issac revealed the depth of his growth, emphasizing his newfound strength and the family he fought to protect. He summoned Ascalon, imbuing it with scorching flames, and decisively ended Kokabeel's life, ensuring that his soul would not return. As Krusuri emerged from the rubble, fear gripped him upon seeing Kokabeel's severed head. Issac, now in a different mode, prepared to confront Krusuri. His armor transformed again, equipping him with blasters aimed at the fallen devil. He declared that Krusuri would pay for his previous actions, particularly the attack on Tokyo. Issac methodically shot Crusory's limbs, each bullet infused with holy magic, intensifying the pain for the devil. With Crusory incapacitated and in agony, Issac proclaimed that he would ensure Crusory would not return to life. He raised Ascalon once more and delivered a fatal blow, decapitating Crusory and burning his soul, securing his finality. Issac reflected on his progress, noting that 4 adversaries had been defeated, with 3 remaining. Drake reminded Issac to address the field of Nilrem magicians before confronting his uncle and the others. The suggestion to enter Raider Assassin mode was made, highlighting its speed and stealth, which struck fear into any enemy who had encountered it. Issac acknowledged the effectiveness of this approach, knowing that those who had faced it had not lived to tell the tale. Issac gazed out the window at the multitude of Nilrem magicians surrounding the palace. Beyond the barriers, he could see the US-Japanese task force preparing for action. Determined to act, he decided to contact the Pentagon. At the Pentagon, the Situation Room was tense with anticipation. They had not heard from Issac in some time, relying solely on updates from their soldiers. Suddenly, a call came in. Zach, one of the officials, asked if Issac was all right. Issac confirmed that he was safe and informed them that he had dealt with Crusory and Kokabeel. He noted that only Rizavim, Euclid, and Walburga remained, while Kong and his associates, Jennings and Barkawi, were no longer a threat. Clegg expressed relief at Issac's safety, and Issac prepared to take down the Nilrem magicians, instructing the Pentagon to alert everyone to get ready for an offensive. He warned them about the presence of high-class and ultimate-class fallen angels and devils still lurking near the palace gates. When asked about his approach, Issac revealed he would employ a different strategy than Juggernaut Overdrive, opting instead for the Delta Raider Assassin. Meanwhile, at the Joint Operations Center, the combined forces of the JSDF and the U.S. military were on high alert. Susanoo, a Shinto deity, relayed the message from Zach, urging everyone to prepare for Issac's assault on the barrier. Brandon commanded his team to take battle positions, and Naomi and Iane expressed their readiness to reclaim their city. Back at the Imperial Palace, Issac donned his Delta Raider Assassin armor, designed for stealth and efficiency. He launched himself from the window, swiftly engaging the Nilrem magicians. They attempted to defend themselves, but Issac's power was overwhelming. The scene turned chaotic as he dispatched them with brutal efficiency, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. As the barriers fell, news reporters around the world began to cover the event, highlighting the collapse of the magical defenses and the advance of the Joint Task Force. The reporters described the situation unfolding at the palace, noting the significant breakthrough as the barriers were dismantled. They reported on the final advance towards the palace, led by the Shinto gods and high-ranking military officers, all determined to liberate Tokyo from the Khaos Brigade. As the clock ticked towards 23:45, Issac reached the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, where the 3 key figures behind the Tokyo attack awaited him. Rizavim taunted Issac, who was resolute in his intent to end their threat once and for all. Rizavim ordered his allies to attack, but Issac was prepared for the confrontation. In a flashback just moments earlier, the remaining leaders of the Khaos Brigade had been watching Issac on their screens. Rizavim recognized him as the troublemaker who had been evading capture. Issac confronted Rizavim about the attack on Tokyo, asserting that they would not go unchallenged. Rizavim attempted to assert his power by claiming he could revive his fallen comrades, but Issac revealed that he had destroyed their souls beyond recovery. As the tension escalated, Rizavim began to realize the true identity of his opponent. Issac, revealing his connection to Rizavim, prepared for the final confrontation. He declared his intent to confront Rizavim directly, promising that he would not rest until he had dealt with the threat once and for all. Now face-to-face with Rizavim, Euclid, and Walburga, Issac was ready to end the chaos that had plagued Tokyo. Meanwhile, Alan, Takeo, Hachiro, Grafia, Venelana, Milikas, Amanda, and Claire remained in chains, with 6 of them restrained by magic-nullifying cuffs. Rizavim declared that it was the end for Issei, commanding his followers to eliminate him. Euclid and Walburga responded eagerly, launching an attack on Issac. As they advanced, Issac dropped his firearms and prepared to fight using his hand weapons and magic. Issac welcomed the challenge, and as the confrontation began, Euclid attempted to strike but missed. Issac countered with a powerful punch that sent Euclid reeling. Walburga unleashed a series of magic blasts, which Issac skillfully dodged. He retaliated with fire blasts directed at Walburga, forcing her to evade quickly due to their speed. Euclid then employed his ice magic, but Issac summoned the boosted gear and created a fire shield to protect himself. He launched several minimized dragon shots, inflicting damage on the Lucifuge, who responded by summoning Ascalon. In a different location, 2 kilometers outside the Imperial Palace, Valle, enhanced by Ingvild's song, made significant progress against the brigade's forces, taking down several high-class fallen angels in the air. Irina used her light spears to eliminate multiple devils with precision, while Brandon transformed into his dragon form, incinerating numerous enemies. The Kendo duo and Perverted duo, along with Natsum, fired at will, decimating the brigade's ranks. Lavinia and Tobio, wielding their sacred gears, also contributed to the destruction of the brigade soldiers. Susanoo and Tsukuyami fought fiercely, leaving a trail of defeated foes in their wake. Masahiko, Kuroka, and Akagi utilized senjutsu to overpower several soldiers, while Arthur, with Caliban, cut down a significant number of enemies. Lu Fei and Rosweiss employed their magic to eliminate vast swathes of the brigade's forces. Akagi informed everyone that air support was on its way and urged them to fall back. Brandon echoed the command, and soon, several F-35 jets arrived, locking onto their targets. Akagi commanded them to fire, resulting in a barrage of missiles that decimated large groups of enemies. B-1 bombers followed suit, dropping cluster bombs around the palace grounds and further diminishing the brigade's numbers. Masahiko encouraged the team to finish off the remaining foes. Inside the Imperial Emergency Operations Center, the hostages could hear the chaos outside and felt the tremors from above. Teiko decided to inquire about Issac from the Phoenix and Lucifuge families. Grafia responded to his request, and Teiko questioned why they had not prevented his nephew's exile, believing that it could have averted the current crisis. The Devil families looked somber, and Venelana spoke on their behalf. She explained that they had been unaware of Surzek's and the Council's plans until it was too late. Grafia had even searched for Issac in Kuo, only to discover that he had been disowned by his parents. Initially, she thought Issac was acting out of anger, but it was revealed that Kuroka had been responsible for the situation. Teiko asked about Kuroka, and Amanda elaborated, explaining that Kuroka was a former SS-class stray devil who had become Zenovia's bishop and a high-class devil. She had stood by Issei as his fiancé when others had abandoned him, alongside Irina and Rosweiss. Teiko acknowledged that he had expected Irina to be there, as the two had been extremely close. Grafia recounted her experience searching for Issei, describing how she had teleported into his empty room and later found his parents, Miki and Goru, who had been recovering from Kuroka's attack. Upset by their harsh words about Issei, she had frozen them up to their necks in retaliation, knowing that no one would believe their claims against her. Hachiro expressed concern about whether they would report her actions, but Grafia assured him that no one would take their side, especially after disowning Issei. The others nodded in agreement, and Hachiro looked at Teiko, who also nodded, indicating that the First Minister was gaining insight into Issac's past. Alan shared that 10 months after Issac's exile, Mike Banning and the former president had found him injured in a forest near Washington, D.C. They took him to the hospital, where he revealed the truth about the supernatural world and his experiences. This information was relayed to the highest levels of government, leading to a decision to keep everything confidential. Alan explained that the state visit had another purpose, relating to the Shinto faction. Hachiro inquired further, and Alan revealed their intention to become signatories of the Red Dragon Accord, formed in response to Issac's exile. Hachiro recalled hearing about the accord from his father, realizing that something had gone wrong, especially when Aunt Amaterasu informed him that all deals with the Devil faction had been dissolved. He noted that Tokyo was under the governance of the Agar's clan, which had increased their vigilance against strays, leaving Kuo Town as the only remaining devil territory in Japan. Venelana recounted that Sona had been summoned by Lady Amaterasu and had to justify her continued control over Kuro. She had succeeded but was informed that only she and her peerage could remain in Japan. When the war began, Sona requested to relocate her parents to Kuo for their safety. Alan asked about Sona's parents, and Claire explained that they had fallen victim to a unique sleeping disease that affected devils, rendering them in a deep slumber for an indefinite period. Alan recognized the condition, noting that it was the same one that Ingvild had experienced. Venelana expressed her fondness for Issei, stating that she had seen him as a son, while Grafia considered him more like a younger brother. To Milikas, Issei had been an older brother and a source of inspiration, highlighting the deep bonds they had formed with him. Prime Minister Teiko Sawada received an apology on behalf of Issei from Venelana, who expressed regret for the hardships Issei had endured. She conveyed that if they had recognized the situation earlier, they might have been able to alert others and prevent the fallout. The other Maos, including Seraphal Leviathan, Sona's elder sister, Ajuka Beelzebub, and Falbium Asmodeus, had supported Issei and were equally blindsided by the decision that led to his suffering, which ultimately ignited the Second Civil War. Teiko acknowledged the apology but noted that acceptance and forgiveness were not solely her decision. It was up to Issei, who had distanced himself from everything related to the Hyoudou name, making it likely that he would need time to come to terms with it. Suddenly, the door burst inward, revealing signs of a struggle. Someone had been thrown against it, and shouts echoed in the air. Euclid, filled with rage, confronted Isaac, accusing him of being weak and reliant on others. Isaac, unfazed, declared his intent to demonstrate true strength. Rizavim, confident in his superiority, dismissed Isaac's boosted gear, but Isaac had a surprise in store. He activated his Hexa-Go, transforming into Trihexa's balance breaker, a form that shocked his opponents. Rizavim's attempt to cancel Isaac's power failed, leaving him and his allies stunned. Isaac chanted a powerful incantation, declaring himself the dragon god of domination, a fusion of his Welsh dragon and imperial apocalyptic powers. The energy he radiated was enough to shake the greater Tokyo metropolitan area. Meanwhile, in the precinct of the palace, the brigade's soldiers had been decimated by a bombing run. As they prepared to breach, the ground trembled, and the yokai present sensed the overwhelming power being unleashed. Masahiko felt a sense of dread, recognizing the incredible power emanating from Isaac. Kuroka confirmed that Isaac's strength was growing exponentially, prompting Masahiko to suggest caution. Akagi ordered everyone to hold off on the breach, sensing the impending danger. In the Emergency Operations Center, Isaac faced off against Euclid, Rizavim, and Walburga. He moved with blinding speed, unleashing a relentless assault. Armed with both holy swords, he struck Euclid, severing his arm and inflicting immense pain. Isaac taunted Euclid, suggesting that he was willing to sacrifice himself for Rizavim. Just as he prepared to deliver a fatal blow, Rizavim intervened, teleporting Euclid and Walburga away, leaving Isaac to sneer at their cowardice. Determined to rescue the hostages, Isaac charged into the center, swiftly eliminating the remaining assailants. He moved with such speed that the bodies fell before anyone could see him. After ensuring the area was secure, he addressed President Trumbull, apologizing for his tardiness due to previous conflicts. Venelana, witnessing his growth over the years, shed tears of pride, while Grafia also felt emotional. Alan greeted Isaac warmly, and Isaac quickly freed him and Hachiro. When he finally encountered his uncle Teiko after 2 decades, they embraced, both moved by the reunion. Teiko expressed pride in Isaac's growth, while Isaac downplayed his accomplishments. Hachiro, the Emperor of Japan, introduced himself, and Isaac respectfully acknowledged him, hoping that the reputation he had heard was positive. However, as Isaac turned to face the Lucifuge and Phoenix families, his expression hardened. Anger surged within him, and he instinctively reached for his swords, but both Alan and Teiko intervened, pulling him aside to speak. The Lucifuges and Phoenixes lowered their heads in sorrow, aware of the pain that still lingered within Isaac. Teiko urged Isaac to consider giving them a chance, but Isaac's anger was palpable. He recounted the betrayal he felt from those he once considered family, including Surzex, whom he had viewed as an older brother, and Rias, the woman he had loved. Their actions had caused him immense pain, and he struggled to reconcile his feelings of hurt and resentment. They all stood by, hesitant to act. Issac felt a stronger sense of trust in Ryzavim than in those around him. He believed Ryzavim was honest about his intentions, unlike the others. Teiko, his uncle, acknowledged Issac's frustration, recalling his own feelings of anger. He urged Issac to give the others a chance to explain themselves. Issac, however, was skeptical. He questioned why he should trust those who had deceived him repeatedly. Teiko insisted that understanding their perspective might change Issac's view. Alan, another figure present, advised Issac to listen to his uncle. He pointed out that the others had not realized the situation until it was too late. Grafia had even searched for Issac at the Hyoudou, only to discover that he had been disowned and had left. Issac scoffed at the thought, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. Alan encouraged him to be patient, but Issac was eager to leave before they could be caught off guard again. As Issac drew Durandal, the devils around him grew tense, anticipating any remaining threats. Hachiro charged his lightning as they continued their approach. The scent of iron lingered in the air, a reminder of the violence that had transpired. Alan wondered how many soldiers had been involved in the conflict, to which Issac replied that there had been many. Upon reaching the main door of the palace, Teiko nearly collapsed but was caught by Hachiro before Issac lifted him. Concerned for his uncle's well-being, Issac inquired if he was all right. Teiko assured him he would be fine, admitting that the Devil Shalba had indeed been a formidable opponent. Issac felt a sense of satisfaction knowing he had dealt with Shalba himself. Grafia, curious, asked how Issac had survived Samuel's venom. Issac merely scoffed at the question, continuing to move forward. Grafia, along with Milikas, Venelana, Amanda, and Claire, felt a deep sadness as they witnessed the kind-hearted Issei transformed by betrayal and his refusal to trust them. Meanwhile, Naomi reached out to Issac, asking where he was. He informed her that he was at the entrance and requested first responders for his injured uncle. Naomi quickly mobilized the team. At the remote operations center, Naomi's call prompted immediate action. She alerted everyone to send first responders to the entrance, where Issac had brought the hostages. As they emerged, Teiko needed support from Issac. The news reporters captured the moment, announcing the miraculous survival of Emperor Hachiro, Prime Minister Teiko Sawada, and President Alan Trumbull. They reported on the daring rescue operation led by Issac, highlighting the extraordinary circumstances that had allowed these leaders to escape. In the Pentagon Situation Room, applause erupted as they witnessed Hachiro, Teiko, and Alan walking out alive. Zack praised Mike's son for his bravery, while Mike acknowledged the significant changes in the world, as the existence of the supernatural was now widely known. Clegg emphasized the need to adapt to this new reality and suggested confirming with Issac whether Ryzavim had escaped. Mike agreed that this could be addressed during the debriefing. Lewis anticipated a considerable amount of work ahead, foreseeing a NATO conference in response to the events. Monroe noted that East Asian partners were also signaling their involvement. Back at the Imperial Palace, emergency teams arrived to treat Issac and the hostages. Issac carefully placed Teiko down for medical attention, while Hachiro did the same for Alan. Naomi and Aine rushed to Issac, embracing him tightly, relieved to see him safe. Susanoo and Tsukuyami approached Hachiro, bowing to their father and uncle before embracing them as well. The reporters were held back by soldiers, unable to reach the group. Aine expressed her joy at seeing Issac again, who returned her sentiment. Naomi added that it had been too long since they had all been together. Issac noticed many of his friends and companions present, greeting them with a wave and a kiss blown in their direction. Susanoo and Tsukuyami stepped forward, prompting Aine and Naomi to step back and bow their heads. Issac was about to bow in return, but they stopped him, reminding him that family does not bow to one another. He acknowledged this and embraced them. Suddenly, a Shinto teleportation circle appeared, and Amaterasu, Chiyo, and Megumi emerged. The reporters bowed as the three passed through. Chiyo and Megumi rushed to Hachiro, their concern evident as they checked to see if he was all right. Hachiro reassured them that he was fine, crediting Isaac for their survival. Chiyo and Megumi exchanged worried glances, relieved to see their father safe, especially after Amaterasu had to redirect the plane to Kyoto. As they gathered, Isaac continued to converse with Ayane, Naomi, and Teiko, while Kid approached them as well, bringing the family together in a moment of relief and unity. Trumbull was approached by Brandon and Masahiko, who saluted him. He instructed them to stand at ease. Brandon expressed concern for Trumbull's well-being, to which Trumbull admitted he was shaken but would be all right. Amaterasu called out to Isaac, expressing her relief that he had made it out safely with the hostages. Isaac acknowledged the difficulty of the situation but confirmed he had managed to complete the task. Amaterasu noted that everything had changed now that the world was aware of the supernatural. Isaac explained that the situation needed to be addressed by the Accord, and he mentioned that the United States was interested in joining. As Amaterasu and Isaac spoke, they were interrupted by two familiar voices that caused Isaac's eyes to widen in disbelief. The Sawada family turned to see Miki and Hyoudou approaching. Isaac felt a surge of anger at their presence, while Kid and Ayane shared his fury. Naomi displayed a mix of shock and anger, and Teiko regarded Miki with disappointment. Miki called out to Isaac, urging him to come closer. Isaac responded with hostility, questioning their motives for approaching him. Goro attempted to assert his authority as a father, but Isaac vehemently rejected that notion, reminding them of their past actions that had led to his disownment. Miki insisted that Isaac listen to his father, but Isaac retorted that they had failed him when he needed them most. He declared that his true parents were Mike and Leah Banning, not the people who had abandoned him. Miki reached for Isaac, but Kid intervened, slapping her hand away. Teiko then confronted Goro, delivering a punch that knocked him out. The scene was captured on camera, broadcasting the confrontation to the world as Miki and Goro attempted to manipulate Isaac into returning to them. After the altercation, Isaac received a call informing him that Air Force One was ready to depart for the United States. However, he was the only Secret Service agent remaining, which posed a significant problem given the recent events at the Imperial Palace. He informed the president of the situation, acknowledging the major issue it presented. Brandon suggested that Masahiko and Naomi act as makeshift Secret Service agents until they returned to the States. Masahiko expressed uncertainty about this plan, but Brandon reassured him that he could manage the situation in their absence. Naomi raised concerns about the Lucifuge and Phoenixes, questioning their safety. Isaac believed they could fend for themselves, as they were devil nobles. The group exchanged glances, noting Isaac's lingering grudge against them, which saddened Naomi. Alan proposed that the Lucifuge and Phoenixes could accompany them on Air Force One, but Isaac was adamant that it would be a security risk. He argued against having anyone who was not part of the Secret Service or military on the plane with the president. Alan suggested that they could be confined to a specific area of the plane with access to a bathroom until they reached Washington, D.C. He emphasized the importance of keeping them safe from potential threats, especially considering Milikas's involvement in the recent crisis. Reluctantly, Isaac agreed to the plan, realizing it was necessary for everyone's safety. Naomi inquired about the nuclear football, and Isaac reassured her that he had retrieved it from the boosted gear when leaving the bunker. Brandon confirmed that the launch codes had been changed after it was confirmed that President Trumbull was a hostage, ensuring that no nuclear threats remained. With the plan set, Isaac prepared to inform Amaterasu and the others about their departure. He approached the Shinto gods and demigods, letting them know they would be returning to the United States. Amaterasu expressed concern, and Isaac reassured her that they would face a mountain of debriefs and paperwork upon their return. Susanoo encouraged him to maintain contact, while Hachiro expressed a longing to see Isaac again under better circumstances. Tsukuyami mentioned a conference involving other factions and nations, piquing Isaac's interest as he hoped for positive developments in the future. The only reason Isaac refrained from taking drastic action was the presence of the watching world and the need to determine their next steps. Amaterasu expressed her understanding but pressed for clarity regarding the fate of the Lucifuges and Phoenixes. Isaac sighed, acknowledging the situation. He explained that President Trumbull had ordered their transport to the United States for protective custody, a decision he personally found troubling but felt compelled to follow. Amaterasu reminded Issac of his status as Shinto royalty, emphasizing that he represented their interests as well. Issac nodded in agreement and approached Teiko, Iane, and Keed. Iane greeted him warmly, and Teiko expressed his concern for Issac's safety. Keed offered a suggestion about potentially combining the last names of Banning and Sawada, highlighting that had they known about Issac's situation earlier, they would have welcomed him and Naomi into their family long ago. Issac acknowledged this with gratitude. The Sawada family shared a heartfelt farewell with Issac and Naomi before they departed. Issac waved to his old friends, promising to reconnect soon. Naomi approached the Lucifuges and Phoenixes to explain their situation. She informed them that President Trumbull had mandated their return to the United States for processing and protective custody, and that Issac would be occupied for a while before he could speak with them. Venelana expressed her willingness to wait as long as they could eventually communicate with Issac. Issac, while wishing they could all travel together, emphasized the urgency of their departure and the need to maintain communication with the RD. Irina suggested that Ingvild and Valiana accompany Issac, while she would remain with Lord Michael and Gabriel, and Kuroka would stay in Japan. Ingvild agreed, and they prepared to leave. The U.S. contingent, along with the Phoenix and Lucifuge families, teleported to Atsugi Air Force Base. As they arrived, Trumbull was skirted onto the plane, with Issac being the last to board before the door closed. He instructed that the captain could proceed and arranged for the Lucifuges and Phoenixes to be taken to a separate area of the plane, where they would be monitored by Valet and Ingvild. Trumbull settled into his office to rest during the flight, while Naomi communicated with Air Traffic Control. Air Traffic Control informed Naomi of their SERT by F-16 fighter jets, which reassured her. She shared this news with Masahiko, who confirmed that Trumbull was with Issac and that the Phoenixes and Lucifuges were secured in another section of the plane. In Trumbull's office, he and Issac discussed the aftermath of the events in Tokyo. Issac confirmed that they had neutralized most of the individuals revived by Rizavim, including many of the old Mao, as Draig's flames were capable of destroying souls. Naomi and Masahiko entered the office, and Trumbull welcomed them to sit down. Naomi informed Trumbull about their air SERT, and he acknowledged the good news, urging Issac to continue with his report. Issac raised concerns about Rizavim possessing the Grail, which posed a significant threat due to his ability to revive nearly anyone. Masahiko noted the potential dangers that could arise from this. Trumbull recognized the need to conserve their strength for the challenges awaiting them back home. Naomi reassured him that they would arrive by evening, and Issac would brief the military leadership on the potential threats. Trumbull revealed his intention to step down as President of the United States, a decision he had contemplated prior to the trip. He explained that he aimed to secure the United States' admission into the Accord before the attack occurred, and now felt it was time for Zach and Louis to take over. Issac and Naomi were taken aback by this announcement but understood the reasoning behind it. Meanwhile, in another section of Air Force One, Venelana, Grafia, Claire, and Amanda were being watched by Valet and Ingvild. Milikas, exhausted from the earlier conflict, rested against his mother. Grafia inquired about his well-being, and Valet confirmed that he was coping, though he had become distrustful of others outside his close circle due to recent betrayals. Ingvild warned that Milikas had initially opposed their presence on the plane, but Trumbull's decision to separate them had eased his concerns. Claire noted that Milikas had developed a strong aversion to anyone associated with the factions, a sentiment that had taken time to build even with his own parents. Amanda explained that, like Lady Venelana had informed President Trumbull, Prime Minister Sawada, and Emperor Hachiro, they had not anticipated the exile. Had they known, they would have warned him in advance so he could prepare. The information had been kept secret from them, and they discovered it simultaneously with Lady Serafal, Lord Ajuka, and Lord Falbium, along with everyone else. Valet expressed concern that this explanation might not suffice for Issac, as he believed it would be difficult for him to see their actions as anything but betrayal. Dragons took betrayal very seriously, and in some cases, it could lead to fatal consequences. The quartet reacted with shock at Vala's words, and Albion added his perspective, noting the existence of a condition known as the Curse of the Fallen Dragon. This affliction struck when a dragon faced betrayal, particularly from their mates. With Issac having been betrayed by 6 of his mates, the pain should have been unbearable. However, the prior confessions from Valle, Ingvild, and Gabriel, along with the support from Kuroka, Rosweiss, and Irina, had significantly mitigated the impact of the disease. Still, it had weakened him considerably. Had he not been found by former President Asher and his now father, he would have succumbed to the disease within 2 years. The realization of the extent of their daughter's actions weighed heavily on the others, as they understood how close they had come to causing Issac's demise. Grafia, overcome with emotion, shed a few tears of gratitude for those who had stood by him during that dark time. As they flew over Barrow, Alaska, the captain announced their entry into North American airspace, with an SCRT of F-22 Raptors. They expected to arrive at Joint Base Andrews within the next 4 to 5 hours. Ingvild noted that they were indeed 5 hours away from home, and Valle anticipated that Leah would be eager to see Issac and Naomi again, as they were her children. Grafia inquired about the name of their mother, and Valle confirmed it, expressing a longing to share more, but stating that it was ultimately up to Issac to decide. 5 hours later, Air Force One made its final approach to Joint Base Andrews. As the F-22 Raptors broke formation, the presidential Boeing 747 touched down on the tarmac. Secret Service agents rushed to the jet as Trumbull prepared to disembark. Naomi approached the Phoenixes and Lucifuges to inform them of the proceedings. Valle noted the large number of Secret Service agents present and asked what would happen next. Naomi explained that the individuals would be taken into custody for processing before being granted residence. Issac had informed the government about every property held by the Gremery enterprise, which had been investigated for tax evasion and other crimes, leading to their seizure. This meant a significant amount of bureaucracy would be involved, including a thorough examination of their history. Ingvild asked if they would receive asylum if they were found to be clean, to which Naomi affirmed. However, if they were not, the situation would become complicated, and even the president would have limited power to intervene. Valle acknowledged the gravity of the situation, and Venelana expressed hope that their names would not be implicated in the matter. As the door of the jet opened, Issac led Trumbull to the armored convoy, with Naomi and Masahiko following closely behind. Secret Service agents skirted the Phoenixes and Lucifuges away, while Valle and Ingvild were directed to another vehicle within the convoy, which departed the base en route to Walter Reed Hospital. At Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Trumbull underwent examination as Zach Mason, the Vice President of the United States, and Issac and Naomi's father, Mike Banning, arrived at the hospital. With the 25th Amendment now rescinded, Trumbull resumed his role as Commander-in-Chief. Upon reaching Trumbull's room, Issac, Masahiko, and Naomi were already present, accompanied by Valle and Ingvild. Mike embraced his 2 eldest children, relieved to see them safe, while Zach greeted them and inquired about the current situation. Valle informed him that the president was being scanned for health issues, emphasizing the need for caution despite Irina's healing. Zach acknowledged the presence of the Phoenixes and Lucifuges, who were there to clarify matters with Issac. Issac rolled his eyes at the thought of the impending conversation. Zach checked in on Issac, who assured him he would be fine, though he anticipated more challenges ahead. Mike confirmed the media frenzy surrounding them, with constant inquiries flooding the White House and Pentagon regarding Issac's situation. Issac quietly expressed his frustration, seeking divine assistance to cope with the overwhelming attention. The following day, at the Banning home in Washington, D.C., the media storm continued to swirl around the events of the past few days, including the Tokyo attack, the exposure of the supernatural, and Issac's heroic actions. Exhausted from the turmoil, Issac awoke to find his younger sisters, Lynn and Lilith, jumping onto his bed, excited to see him. They asked when he had returned, and he informed them it had been earlier that morning. Leah entered the room, reminding the girls that their brother needed rest. Issac reassured her that he would be fine after a short sleep, reflecting on the chaos of the past days as just another day in the life of the Red Dragon Emperor, though he hadn't expected such events to unfold after a decade of relative calm. Issac lay back down on his bed, contemplating the significant events that were about to unfold. Morning had arrived, and he greeted his partner, Trihexa, who sensed Issac's deep thoughts. The news of President Trumbull's resignation and Zach's impending takeover weighed heavily on his mind. Issac felt a mix of anticipation and confusion, particularly regarding a certain red-haired individual and her group, whom he believed were only reappearing now that they needed him as a tool. He was resolute in his decision not to be manipulated any longer. Trihexa encouraged Issac to discuss his aunt's proposition with their mother, which Issac planned to do since his father had already approved it. He also intended to reconnect with his school friends, starting with his sister, Issei. As he made his way to his sister's room, his 4 dogs, Maxie, Clara, Hunter, and Bianca, bounded around him, eager for attention. Issac greeted them warmly, wishing he could take them out for a run but knowing he had responsibilities to attend to. He decided to wake up Naomi, and the dogs joyfully rushed into her room, jumping on her bed and licking her face until she stirred. Naomi groaned at the enthusiastic welcome from the dogs and acknowledged her little brother, who informed her about the day's significance. The resignation of President Trumbull and the call for a global conference on the supernatural were topics of interest for both siblings. They agreed to go with the flow of events, and Issac mentioned that their mother was preparing breakfast. Downstairs, the Banning family gathered for breakfast, with Leah already dressed for her hospital shift. As they sat down, the conversation turned to the day's political developments. Issac learned that he would be assigned to Zach's security detail, while Naomi was likely to join him as well. Valle and Ingvild decided to stay behind, ready to communicate with other factions if necessary. Issac brought up an important matter with his mother regarding Aunt Keith's suggestion to register the Sawada last name. Naomi added that they had been kept away from their relatives for years and that their aunt had expressed a longing to have taken custody of them if they had known sooner. Leah was supportive of the idea, acknowledging the need for the siblings to reconnect with their family, though she raised concerns about the bureaucratic process involved. Just then, several letters appeared, sealed with the emblems of the Emperor, Prime Minister, and Lady Amaterasu, confirming their aunt's suggestion. After finishing breakfast, Issac, Naomi, and Mike prepared to leave for the White House. As they stepped outside, they were met by a throng of reporters eager to ask about Issac's experiences and the implications of the supernatural world. Mike instructed them to keep moving, shielding them from the barrage of questions. Upon arriving at the White House, they were escorted to the Oval Office, where President Trumbull, Zach, and other officials awaited them. The atmosphere was tense, with discussions about the media's overwhelming presence and the potential reactions from the supernatural factions following Issac's confrontation with their king. Meanwhile, at Serafall Memorial Hospital, Surzex lay hospitalized after suffering severe injuries during the recent conflict. Rias sat by her brother's side, expressing her frustration over his condition and urging him to focus on recovering so they could work on retrieving Issei. As Surzex regained consciousness, he was met by a doctor who informed him of the seriousness of his injuries. Just as he began to ask what had happened, Serafall entered the room, bluntly stating the reality of his situation. Rias felt a chill in the air as Serafall's voice cut through the tension in the room. Serafall's icy demeanor caught Rias off guard, and Surzex frowned at his sister's harsh tone. Serafall expressed her frustration, reminding Surzex of the consequences of his actions. She pointed out that his reckless behavior had jeopardized their alliances and tarnished their reputation in the human world. The incident with the Shinto Trinity and the Japanese Emperor had further strained their relationships, leading to significant losses for their family. Serafall declared that Surzex was no longer the Devil King Lucifer, a decision made unanimously by the other 3 Devil Kings. She warned him not to challenge her authority, as she had grown stronger. Surzex protested, but Serafall silenced him with a powerful blast of ice, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. She reminded him that his actions could provoke the United States, a powerful military nation they could not afford to make an enemy. The room was filled with tension as Serafall laid out the gravity of Surzex's mistakes, marking a turning point in their leadership. 3 weeks later, the political landscape had shifted dramatically. Zach had assumed the presidency after Alan Trumbull's resignation, and Lewis Hawthorne was sworn in as vice president. The House of Representatives saw a new speaker elected, Lance Mazarov, as the government restructured itself in response to recent events. Meanwhile, Issac had been temporarily relieved of his Secret Service duties and was preparing for a deployment to Yellowstone National Park due to a supernatural incident involving the Greek goddesses Artemis and Athena. He discussed his upcoming mission with Naomi, expressing concern about the potential dangers they might face. Naomi urged him to stay safe, and they shared a light-hearted moment despite the seriousness of the situation. Issac planned to visit his friends Ben and Connor Asher before heading to Malmstrom Air Base. As Issac drove to Baltimore, he reflected on Connor's progress with his sacred gear, Unknown Dictator. Upon arriving at the Asher residence, he was greeted by a Secret Service agent who welcomed him back. He made his way to the backyard, where he found Ben and Connor engaged in training. Connor was practicing his abilities, attempting to manipulate iron to form a glove on his hand. Issac joined them, exchanging pleasantries with Ben and inquiring about Connor's training. Ben shared a humorous anecdote about a minor mishap in the house, and Issac acknowledged the seriousness of his visit. He informed them about the upcoming international conference that would address the recent events and the future of their alliances. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as they prepared for the challenges ahead. The RDA was also involved in the ongoing situation. Ben sensed a significant complication in the matter. Issac confirmed that the RDA wanted to hear from other factions, particularly the Devil faction and possibly the Fallen Angels. Ben expressed his disbelief at the situation, while Issac explained that the Siscon had been stripped of his position as Devil King Lucifer. They had hoped Vala would take over, but she had declined for understandable reasons. Connor noted the desperation of the factions, suggesting that they must be willing to consider a lowly hybrid for the throne, as their elders would say. Issac acknowledged that Vali was the only true descendant of Lucifer who could inherit the throne. They sought her because they wanted someone honest and truthful, and by their standards, Vala fit that description well. However, she had no interest in the position. Issac then mentioned the need for Draconis to ramp up weapon production, emphasizing that it was a federal-owned arms manufacturer specializing in advanced weaponry. Ben agreed to initiate the process and inquired about the types of weapons needed. Issac specified assault rifles, sniper rifles, and pistols among other items. Ben confirmed that the Department of Defense had already sent the necessary prints and specifications. Issac also reported some supernatural activity detected at Yellowstone, involving the Greek goddesses Athena and Artemis. He planned to return to active duty to investigate their intentions, given that Greece no longer recognized the authority of Olympus. Connor recalled how they had betrayed Issac after he had saved them, and Issac noted their pride would likely lead them to confront the strongest human military nation, especially considering his credentials as a U.S. citizen, Secret Service agent, and Army member. Ben found the situation troubling and decided to call Draconis Armaments to escalate the arms production to a Level 2 alert. After confirming the authorization code, he received assurance that the necessary weapons would be prepared by the time Issac arrived in Billings. Issac thanked Ben and instructed Connor to continue practicing with the Unknown Dictator while he checked in. As Issac left the Asher residence, Ben and Connor remained behind, discussing the secrecy surrounding Issac's recent promotion from major to colonel, skipping the rank of lieutenant colonel. They both agreed that he deserved the recognition for his numerous contributions. Unbeknownst to them, someone was spying on the Ashers, listening to their conversation. A communication circle appeared, and the figure reported to their lord that they had located the wielder of the new Longinus, who was currently with his father, while the Securudii had just departed. The figure was instructed to maintain surveillance and await further orders, noting that the humans were producing weapons that could potentially harm gods and titans. Issac, having sensed the presence of the spy, confronted the Grim Reaper, demanding to know what Hades was planning. In a swift and efficient move, he subdued the Grim Reaper and reported the encounter to Delta Echo 1, identifying the threat as originating from the Greek faction. Pentagon Command responded promptly, dispatching units to secure the area and move Benjamin and Connor to a safe location. Issac placed a barrier around the neighborhood to prevent any further supernatural incursions. After ensuring the area was secure, Issac departed for Washington, D.C. At the Lucifuge residence, Graphia and Venelana were enjoying tea with Amanda Phoenix while their son Milikas was at school. Amanda inquired about their well-being, and Graphia shared that they had been cleared by the U.S. government and had settled into their new home, though it was not as luxurious as their previous residences in the underworld. Amanda asked about Milika's recovery, and Graphia explained that it had been slow but steady, with his mother training him to regain his power of destruction after it had been nearly depleted in Tokyo. Venelana added that she had to help jumpstart his magic reserves, which had been dangerously low. Amanda expressed concern about Ravel, noting that she had disowned her after the betrayal but still worried for her safety, especially since she had not seen her in Tokyo. Just then, Milikas returned home from school with a neutral expression. Graphia asked about his day, and he replied that nothing had changed, confirming that his peers still kept their distance due to his heritage. Milikas ascended the stairs to his room, leaving Graphia, Amanda, and Venelana watching with concern. Venelana expressed her worry about Milikas's isolation at school, while Graphia lamented the struggles her son faced. Amanda noted that his difficulties stemmed from his race and species, but Venelana added that the damage done to their family name by Rias and Surzex also played a significant role. Graphia shook her head in sadness, deeply worried for her son. In a hidden location, the remaining leaders of the Khaos Brigade, Rizavim, Walburga, and Euclid, were plotting their next moves after their recent embarrassment in Tokyo at the hands of Issac. Euclid sought guidance from Rizavim, who acknowledged his underestimation of Issei in their last encounter. Rizavim emphasized the need to work on the Grail to resurrect his fellow second-generation Satans, including Tsufame, Bideliad, and Dimdosu, and even considered the slim chance of reviving the original Devil Kings. He also mentioned the plan to bring back Euclid's father, believing he would be a valuable asset. Euclid reported that their experiment had not yielded concrete results yet, but the preliminary findings were promising. Rizavim expressed his intent to continue the experiments, instructing them to seek out suitable candidates for revival. He then retreated to a hidden laboratory filled with test tubes containing growing bodies. At the end of the lab, he accessed a locked room where a young woman, Ravel Phoenix, was chained to a bed, her magic nullified. Ravel, captured during the Khaos Brigade's first attack in a decade, appeared hopeless and broken. Rizavim commented on Ravel's appearance, relishing the power he held over her. Despite her pleas for freedom, he had sinister intentions for her, believing that their offspring would be powerful. As he approached her, Ravel's tears fell, knowing the torment she was about to endure. Hours passed in the hidden room, filled with sounds of anguish rather than pleasure, as Ravel mentally apologized to Issei, hoping for forgiveness should she survive. 2 days later, Issac arrived in Billings, Montana, heading to Draconis Armaments, a federally owned arms manufacturer. After showing his military ID, he was granted access to the factory, where he inspected new weapons tailored to his specifications. The technician assured him that the weapons could take down even a powerful foe with multiple shots. Satisfied, Issac thanked the technician for their support and left the facility to report for duty at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Meanwhile, at Gremory Manor, Surzex was losing his grip on reality. Frustrated by the refusal of the household staff to address him as Lord Lucifer, he had resorted to violence, harming several maids and butlers. Consumed by rage, he blamed Hyoudou for his downfall, feeling betrayed by his own son and vowing to take revenge. At Malmstrom Air Force Base, Issac arrived to find the base bustling with activity. He met with his superior officer, Masahiko, and they exchanged greetings as they walked to the main office, discussing the recent turmoil and the challenges they faced. They were targeting Connor for his sacred gear, Unknown Dictator, which had the potential to significantly alter the world, especially in the realm of tech warfare. Masahiko acknowledged the situation and inquired about the current developments. Issac informed him that Connor and Benjamin had been relocated to a secure location and that Artemis and Athena, along with their group, were now considered hostile until further notice. Masahiko agreed and suggested they head to the office for further discussions. As they made their way to the office within the base, they continued to discuss the Asher situation until they were called down for a parade and deployment. The soldiers on base stood at attention, and Issac recognized a friend among them, Takumi Winfield Marston, a colonel in the U.S. Marines. Drake noted that Takumi was a half-elf and a formidable soldier, capable of holding his own in a sparring simulation against Issac. Issac shared that Takumi had an impressive military record, with 1,500 kills during his deployments, and had even served with the Marine Raiders. He reflected on how the military's open policy allowed non-citizens like himself, Masahiko, and Takumi to serve, while Brandon was a citizen by birth. The commanding officer of the base, Lieutenant General Raymond Douglas, called everyone to attention, and the soldiers saluted him. Some of the supernatural soldiers, including Issei, Takumi, and Masahiko, understood the importance of their presence at the base. The lieutenant general addressed the troops, explaining that the supernatural had been exposed in Tokyo by the Khaos Brigade, and that the former president and the Prime Minister of Japan, along with the Emperor, had been taken hostage. After a difficult battle, they had been rescued along with other hostages. He then called Major Issac Banning to step forward, commending his brave actions in Tokyo. The lieutenant general announced that Issac would be promoted from the rank of major to colonel, a recognition of his commendable service since he was a teenager. The other soldiers applauded as Issac, visibly surprised, accepted the promotion. Masahiko smirked in approval, while Takumi nodded in support. The commanding officer pinned the insignia of a colonel on Issac's shoulders, and he saluted in return. The lieutenant general then ordered the Delta Force and Marine Raiders to report to Briefing Room 3, dismissing the assembly. In Briefing Room 3, the squads selected for the mission at Yellowstone gathered as the commanding officer began the briefing. He instructed everyone to open their briefing documents, outlining the details of Operation Yellowstone Storm, scheduled for the evening. The mission objective was to capture 2 high-value targets believed to be hiding in the wilderness of Yellowstone National Park. The targets were identified as Artemis, the Olympian goddess of hunting, and her sister Athena, the goddess of wisdom. The briefing highlighted the vast and diverse terrain of Yellowstone, which posed challenges for the operation, including unpredictable weather and the presence of tourists. The operational plan involved a stealthy insertion into the park, reconnaissance to locate the targets, and a coordinated effort to capture them with minimal collateral damage. The teams were briefed on the rules of engagement, emphasizing the importance of avoiding non-combatants and minimizing environmental damage. As the briefing concluded, the squads prepared for their mission. They boarded Bell Boeing V-22 Ospreys and flew over Yellowstone National Park, heading toward a designated landing zone that was a distance away from where satellites had detected the goddesses. Camouflaged snipers were already positioned, awaiting the order from Issac to engage if necessary. Upon landing, the Delta Force and Marine Raider squads advanced cautiously toward the targets, aware that they might encounter Artemis, Athena, and potentially their huntresses. The snipers reported that there were more than 20 individuals present, indicating a significant challenge ahead. The huntresses were immortal, but not as powerful as Artemis. In the midst of their preparations, Issac, dressed in his operational uniform, instructed his team to SWH to god-slaying rounds. As the huntresses collected wood for a fire in Yellowstone Park, Artemis remained vigilant, scanning the area for potential threats. Athena expressed her concerns about their location, noting the proximity to a major U.S. military base and the presence of the Hyoudou, which complicated their situation given their father's history. Artemis explained her longing to distance herself from their father, who had become increasingly controlling and paranoid. Athena reminded her of the significant role their father had played in maintaining order among the factions and defeating the Beast of the Apocalypse. Artemis dismissed this, frustrated by her sister's insistence on defending their father. Athena urged Artemis to let go of her grudge against men, arguing that one man's actions should not define her view of the entire gender. Artemis countered, recalling the Hyoudou's past behavior, which had not been exemplary despite his high status. Athena pointed out that the Hyoudou had been a teenager move into a difficult situation, and she reflected on her own past mistakes, particularly regarding Medusa. Their argument was interrupted by the sound of snapping branches, and they turned to see a man approaching. He confronted the sisters, mocking their past grievances and questioning their presence in the United States. The Huntresses aimed their arrows at him, but he remained unfazed, commanding his team to surround them. Issac warned the goddesses to drop their weapons, emphasizing that the U.S. government did not tolerate foreign supernatural beings. He made it clear that this was not Olympus and that they would face consequences if they did not comply. Despite their initial defiance, Artemis and Athena recognized the seriousness of the situation and the power of the Security, ultimately deciding to surrender for the sake of their huntresses. As they complied, Issac's team moved in to secure the area. Suddenly, a voice called out, revealing Ares, the Greek god of war, who had come to confront them. Issac, recognizing the danger, warned Ares not to underestimate him, asserting his reputation as the most dangerous Red Dragon Emperor. Meanwhile, in the White House Situation Room, officials were closely monitoring the developments in Yellowstone. Clegg sought updates from Issac, who reported the presence of Ares and Hermes, the messenger god. The urgency of the situation escalated, prompting discussions about air support and the need for specialized ammunition. The atmosphere was tense as preparations were made to confront the Greek gods, with the stakes higher than ever. The mission was critical, as two powerful entities had been sent to capture two of their own, while two others had taken hostile action against the troops, bringing chaos to the battlefield. The AWAC operators coordinated the air support, identifying valuable targets on the ground, including friendlies. The pilots at Malmstrom Air Base launched their F-24 Tomcat TUS and Eagle TUS fighter jets, ready for engagement. In Yellowstone National Park, Ares confronted Issac, with Artemis and Athena standing behind him. Ares demanded that Issac surrender the two goddesses, but Issac refused, boldly insulting Ares and his lineage. Enraged, Ares charged at Issac, who retaliated with a punch, initiating a fierce struggle for Demps. Issac endured several blows, feeling the impact as he fought back with determination. He drew upon his newly acquired MV-70 weapon, imbued with god-slaying magic, to turn the tide of battle. As Ares recoiled from the attack, Issac took advantage of the moment, unleashing a powerful blast that sent Ares crashing into a cluster of trees. Meanwhile, Takumi faced Hermes, the swift messenger god of Olympus. Initially overwhelmed by Hermes' speed, Takumi adapted and began to match his opponent's pace. The battle raged on, with other members of the Marine Raiders and Delta Force engaging the fighters summoned by the Greek gods, who fell one by one. Takumi landed a decisive blow on Hermes, causing injury and asserting his Demps in the fight. With each strike, he utilized god-slaying bullets to inflict serious damage, ultimately breaking Hermes' leg and knocking him down. As Hermes struggled to regain his speed, Takumi pressed the advantage, delivering punishing blows that left Hermes reeling. After dispatching Hermes, Takumi joined Issac, surveying the chaotic scene. Ares, recovering from the beating, shouted defiantly at the two colonels, challenging their defiance against a god. Takumi expressed his frustration with Ares, while Masahiko reminded them of the incoming airstrike. Issac, eager to deliver a final blow, prepared to unleash his full power, calling upon Drake, his formidable ally. Equipped with breacher armor, Issac charged at Ares, delivering a relentless assault that left the god battered and incapacitated beside Hermes. As both gods struggled to escape, Issac commanded his team to fire upon them, ensuring they could not teleport away. The airstrike commenced, raining down fire upon the Olympians, further incapacitating them. Issac took charge of the situation, instructing his team to secure the defeated gods while a soldier attempted to flee to report the events to Olympus. However, Issac intercepted him, unleashing a devastating attack that disintegrated the soldier into dust. Drake confirmed the nature of Issac's newfound power, hinting at deeper secrets yet to be revealed. With Ares and Hermes captured and dismembered, the soldiers prepared to transport them to helicopters. Artemis, Athena, and the Huntresses were already on board, ready to leave for Malmstrom Air Force Base. In the Situation Room of the White House, reports confirmed the capture of Artemis, Athena, and the Huntresses. Colonel Banning, Colonel Marston, and Lieutenant Colonel Nishimura briefed the president on the status of Ares and Hermes, who had also been captured and rendered harmless. Discussions ensued regarding their fate, with plans for imprisonment and interrogation, emphasizing that even gods were not above judgment. Communication would also be established with the Greek and Macedonian governments, ensuring they were informed of the situation. As the captured goddesses were transported, they expressed their confusion and concern about their fate, but Issac reminded them of their precarious position, asserting control over the situation. Issac suggested that everyone keep quiet, especially in light of the groaning Greek gods nearby. He expressed his willingness to take drastic measures if necessary, indicating that he could easily turn the situation violent. Artemis chose to remain silent after Issac's threat, while Athena acknowledged the change in Issac, noting that betrayal had altered him significantly. Athena expressed her sorrow over the broken friendship caused by Zeus's selfish actions, revealing that she had intended to confess her feelings to Issac before everything fell apart. She hoped he could forgive her for not standing up for him during that time. Takumi inquired about the latest developments from DC, and Issac informed him that Greece and Macedonia would be updated to prevent misunderstandings, as the authority of Olympus was no longer recognized in Greece. He explained that the country was predominantly Orthodox Christian, and any actions taken by Olympus did not reflect the desires of the Hellenic Republic. He also mentioned that NATO had begun deploying more troops in the region. Masahiko anticipated that Zeus would react poorly to the news, and Issac agreed, humorously summarizing Greek mythology as revolving around Zeus's misdeeds. Ares glared at Issac for his mockery, but Issac merely smirked in response, taunting Ares about his anger. The rest of the group, except for Hermes, Artemis, and Athena, found humor in the exchange. Masahiko lamented that Issac hadn't had the chance to use his blades, to which Issac replied that he would thank Old Man Odin for them and intended to use them in the future. When Athena asked about the blades, Issac remained evasive, prompting her to frown at his refusal to provide answers. Takumi then mentioned that Grigori had been invited to the Manila conference, which surprised Issac. Takumi suggested it could be a good opportunity for Issac, Valet, and Team/Dog to confront Azazel, and Issac laughed at the idea. The scene shifted to Malmstrom Air Force Base, where the strike team returned, and Artemis, Athena, and the Huntresses were taken to a separate area while Ares and Hermes were detained in a prison hospital. Lieutenant General Raymond Douglas awaited them in the debriefing room. Meanwhile, on Olympus, Zeus was furious over the failure of Ares and Hermes to return from their mission to retrieve Artemis and Athena. He expressed his frustration, and Poseidon suggested they consider the possibility that the two gods had been captured by humans. Zeus insisted on sending an army to retrieve them, but Hera cautioned against such a move, warning that the U.S. military would respond swiftly and with force. Poseidon reminded Zeus that the Sekyudai was with them, making any confrontation even more dangerous. Zeus regretted not having imprisoned Issac earlier when he had the chance. A week later, Issac found himself back in Washington, D.C., not at the main Banning household but at his own residence. As he woke up, he noticed a blonde-haired woman sleeping beside him and sighed at the sight of her witch hat on the bedside table. He wondered when she had arrived, and she groggily requested to sleep a little longer, citing jet lag. Issac expressed his affection for her before heading out for an early morning run. As he jogged through the outskirts of the city, he reflected on how far he had come since his life had taken a dramatic turn. A green gem appeared on his arm, and Drake began to explain how Issac had unlocked the power of destruction. Drake revealed that during Isaac's reincarnation, adjustments had been made to his cells to align with the magic of the pieces he possessed, which included the power of destruction. Issac was curious about why Drake had not informed him sooner, and Drake explained that Issac needed to unlock the power himself before any details could be shared. Drake suggested that Issac would need a teacher to guide him in mastering this new ability, recommending Venelana and her family, as well as the Phoenixes, to provide their perspective on the matter. As Issac turned the final corner towards home, he prepared to stop his watch when, in an instant, a pair of claws grabbed him, lifting him into the air. Tiamat, the powerful dragon queen, had come for him, furious over a long-standing grudge against Drake, Issac's dragon partner. Drake explained that he had taken Tiamat's treasure and lost it when he died alongside Albion, which had enraged her. Since then, she had hunted down every host of Draig, killing many. Confused and alarmed, Issac questioned how Tiamat had found her way to Washington, D.C., as the familiar forest was her home. Tiamat taunted Draig, declaring that he would lose another host that day. Realizing he had no choice but to fight, Issac braced himself for the confrontation. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Zach Mason was alerted to a significant disturbance in the D.C. no-fly zone. Pentagon Command informed him of a supersonic breach, too fast to be any conventional aircraft. Zach expressed his frustration over the ongoing issues, recalling previous disturbances involving the Greeks. He inquired about Issac's status, but there was no word from him. A call from the director of the Secret Service revealed that Issac had been attacked by Tiamat, who was now personally hunting for Draig's host. Naomi, Issac's sister, was preparing to assist him, having sensed the danger nearby. Despite her father's warnings about Tiamat's lethal nature, Naomi insisted on joining the fight, but Issac reassured her that he would be fine. The National Guard units from Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. were already en route to support him. As the battle commenced, Tiamat attempted to stomp on Issac, but he was too quick to be caught. He boosted his speed to evade her attacks while launching his own. Draig warned Issac about Tiamat's chaos fire, which could burn even gods, but Issac remained determined. Tiamat declared that despite his dragon heritage, he would still perish, and Draig would seek another host. The National Guard arrived, armed with advanced weaponry designed for dragon slaying, surrounding the battlefield. News reporters began covering the unfolding conflict, highlighting the unprecedented breach of airspace and the chaos that ensued. As the fight intensified, Issac gained the upper hand, inflicting serious damage on Tiamat. The National Guards fired their dragon-slaying bullets, causing her significant pain. In retaliation, Tiamat prepared to unleash her most devastating attack, the Chaos Bomb, which could obliterate the entire region. Issac, unwilling to let her harm his allies, transformed into a sleek armor designed for speed. As Tiamat launched the bomb, he intercepted it using a powerful technique that divided its energy. Tiamat was shocked to discover that Issac wielded Albion's power. In a fierce counterattack, Issac absorbed the bomb's energy and unleashed a massive blast that forced Tiamat out of her dragon form and into her human form. Emerging from his armor, Issac confronted her with his sword, Ascalon, poised against her neck. The National Guard, led by Major Roman Visconti Strickland, surrounded them, ready to assist. Issac demanded to know how Tiamat had tracked him down. She taunted him, suggesting he should just kill her, but he insisted on understanding how she had found him. Tiamat revealed that it was due to Mao Surzek's Lucifer, who had inadvertently led her to him. Issac learned that Tiamat was the current host of Draig. A deep frown settled on his face as he positioned Ascalon near her neck, causing her to shudder in fear. The presence of the dragon-slaying holy sword made her uneasy, and she looked at Issac with trepidation. Issac expressed his anger at Tiamat, accusing her of killing his predecessor hosts for what he deemed a foolish treasure. Tiamat's expression turned furious at his dismissal of its significance. She insisted that he could not possibly understand its importance. Issac countered, questioning whether her longing for the treasure justified the harm she had caused. He believed that if she had spoken to any of his predecessors, they would have helped her find what she sought. As he unleashed a portion of his aura, Tiamat felt its intensity, reminiscent of Great Red's power, mixed with a hint of Ophis' influence. This realization frightened her, leaving her to wonder how Issac had reached such a formidable level. He commanded her to rise, and she complied slowly, still feeling the sword's edge against her neck. Issac informed her that the Siskon Gremory was no longer a devil king, especially after the chaos he had caused in Tokyo. This revelation fueled Issac's determination to eliminate him for good, but he had more pressing matters to attend to. He proposed a deal: he would search for her treasure, and in return, she would leave him and his successors alone, extending that protection to his family as well. Tiamat agreed, and Issac instructed her to return to the underworld and head to Tannen's territory. He wanted her to ensure the safety of the dragons there. If Tannen inquired about her presence, she was to inform him that it was at the behest of his former student, the Security. Issac expressed his longing to meet with Tannen again, seeking his training for the challenges ahead. Issac made it clear that if Tiamat ever stepped out of line again, he would not hesitate to eliminate her. Tiamat trembled at his words, especially as his eyes transformed, and he exuded a powerful aura while unfurling his 2 pairs of draconic wings, a sight that shocked her. She realized that only Great Red possessed such wings, and her instincts urged her to submit to his authority. Tiamat acknowledged her understanding of the situation, and Issac reminded her that if it wasn't him enforcing the consequences, it would be his allies. She left Virginia, taking to the sky and opening a teleportation circle as the National Guards and Issac observed her departure. Once the fires were extinguished, the National Guards returned to base, while Issac soared back to his residence, where Lavinia awaited him with a hug and a kiss. Lavinia expressed her concern for his well-being, having been alerted to the fight with Tiamat through Vachon. Issac reassured her that he was fine and explained that he had instructed her not to intervene, as both she and Tiamat were part of his immediate family. He had to confront Tiamat alone to protect them. Lavinia understood but urged him to avoid such risks in the future. Just then his phone rang and he answered it. Clegg inquired about Tiamat's departure after her defeat, and Issac assured him that she was following his orders and would not pose a threat again. He explained that he had established his authority over her as a dragon god. The scene shifted to the dragon range in the underworld, where Tiamat arrived to fulfill Issac's request. Upon landing, the guards were surprised to see her. She asked if Tannen was present and requested to speak with him. After a brief wait, Tannen approached, surprised by her visit from the familiar forest. Tiamat revealed that she came at the request of Issac, whom Tannen recognized as his former student. Tiamat corrected him, stating that Issac now went by Issac Banning. Tannen noted the name change and questioned her motives for being there, suspecting she hadn't tried to harm Issac. Tiamat admitted that she had attacked him and was soundly defeated, aided by his human friends. Tannen expressed irritation at the mention of Surzex, warning her not to trust the devil, who had betrayed Issac and played a role in the Second Civil War. Tiamat was taken aback by the revelation that a dragon had acquired Dragon's Fall, a fate she believed to be nearly impossible to survive. Tannen confirmed the truth of the matter, citing Ophis as his source. If one had not yet heard the story of Issac Banning, it was best to settle in with a glass of dragon apple wine, for it was a tale that had only been shared with the dragons residing nearby. At Issac's residence, he and Lavinia were enjoying breakfast when a message from his mother arrived. Leah, his mother, expressed concern for his well-being, noting that his recent battle with Tiamat had become a global headline. She informed him that Amaterasu was reaching out to check on him. Issac acknowledged that he was fine, but mentioned that Surzex had leaked his location to Tiamat, which only fueled his longing for retribution against Surzex. Leah urged him to speak with the Phoenixes and Lucifuges for closure, especially with an important event approaching in Manila. After some hesitation, Issac agreed to meet them, requesting his mother accompany him. Lavinia, sensing something was amiss, inquired about the situation. Issac explained that he needed to confront the Phoenixes and Lucifuges, and Lavinia supported the idea, encouraging him to keep an open mind. She then asked for his card to do some shopping, to which Issac reluctantly agreed, cautioning her not to overspend. Later, at noon, Issac and Leah prepared to leave for the meeting. Leah reminded him to remain open-minded, and Issac assured her he would. They set off for the Lucifuge home, where an important conversation awaited. Upon arriving at the Lucifuge home, they found Venelana, Amanda, Graphia, Claire, and Milikas gathered together, engrossed in news coverage of the battle between Issac and Tiamat. The newscaster reported that the White House was investigating the circumstances surrounding the confrontation, revealing that Surzex had provided Tiamat with Issac's location in a misguided attempt at revenge. The report indicated that the situation was sensitive and that various factions were being informed to determine the next steps. Graphia expressed disbelief at Surzex's actions, while Claire noted the depths to which he had sunk in trying to eliminate Issac. Venelana reflected on her own feelings of failure regarding her children, and Amanda reassured her that it was not her fault. Just then Milikas answered a knock at the door, surprised to see Leah and Issac standing there. He welcomed them inside, drawing the attention of everyone present. Leah introduced herself as Isaac's adoptive mother and explained that she was there to support him. Issac, maintaining a stoic demeanor, inquired about how they should proceed. He questioned what they could say to convince him that they had not been involved in his betrayal from the beginning. Grafia took the initiative to explain, revealing that the details surrounding Isaac's exile had been kept secret from the files she had reviewed, which were taken from Surzex. She produced the documents, spreading them across the table for Issac and Leah to examine. Grafia recounted the day she discovered the truth, recalling how she had overheard a conversation among the faction leaders discussing Isaac's fate. As she listened, Grafia's heart sank. Surzex and the others had decided to banish Issei, believing he was no longer necessary. Grafia's anger grew as she realized the implications of their decision. She confronted Surzex, demanding to know if he truly intended to exile someone who had played a crucial role in protecting their family and allies. Surzex dismissed her concerns, insisting that he wanted to shield his son from negative influences. Grafia, filled with righteous anger, reminded him of all the times Issei had saved them and questioned how he could turn his back on someone who had fought so hard for their cause. The tension in the room was palpable as the weight of their decisions loomed over them, and the need for resolution became increasingly urgent. The room was thick with tension as the confrontation echoed through the walls. Grafia's eyes burned with fury as she faced Surzex. In a moment of anger, she slapped him, the sharp sound reverberating in the heavy silence that followed. Without another word, she turned and left the room, leaving Surzex alone with his thoughts and the now cold tea. After that confrontation, Grafia informed her mother, who similarly confronted Rias and Zeoticus, only to find the same result. To them, Issei was nothing more than a weapon that had outlived its usefulness, which explained their actions. Grafia then sought out Issei at the Hyoudou home, only to discover that he had been disowned and evicted. She teleported into his room, hoping to find him, but the space was empty and cold. Concerned, she went downstairs and found Miki and Goru. Miki, with a scoff, expressed her disdain for Issei, stating that he had not been around for a while and that his absence was a relief. Goru stepped forward, filled with contempt, declaring that Issei was nothing but a stain on the family, always causing trouble. Grafia's eyes widened in shock and anger at their words. She struggled to maintain her composure as she defended Issei, reminding them of the sacrifices he had made for their lives. Miki's anger flared, but she remained icy in her tone, insisting that they did not care about Issei's heroics and that he was a disgrace. Grafia stepped forward, her voice firm and unwavering, asserting that Issei deserved respect and that she would find him to ensure he knew he was valued. Gora mocked her determination, suggesting that Issei was not worth the trouble. With a burning resolve, Grafia unleashed an ice spell that froze them up to their necks, glaring at them coldly as she declared that she would prove them wrong. She walked away from the house, her determination stronger than ever. She would find Issei, no matter the cost. Isaac smiled slightly upon hearing about Grafia's actions toward his former parents. Amanda then recounted how Grafia had informed them of Rias and the rest of the peerage's actions, including Ravel's involvement. This led to Amanda disowning Rias as her daughter, and they left Phoenix Manor together. When the family decided to move to Grafia's childhood home in her family's territory, they followed. After the other Devil Kings were informed, riots erupted across the underworld. Surzex and the council attempted to quell the unrest, often resorting to extreme measures. However, this only fueled the anger of the people, who began targeting the noble devils. Isaac expressed his disdain for the council, highlighting their willingness to condemn Kuroka for protecting her sister. As the violence escalated, a second civil war broke out, dividing the factions into those who supported Isaac and those who did not. Tragically, 10 more pillars were lost in the conflict. Isaac observed the group, searching for any signs of dishonesty, but found none. Leah then posed a question to her son, seeking his approval to share a painful truth. Isaac nodded in agreement. Leah revealed that the actions of Rias, her peerage, Ravel, and the other factions had caused significant emotional and physical harm to Isaac, nearly costing him his life. The 5 devils listened in shock as Leah, an emergency department doctor, recounted the fear she felt when she saw Issac so sick, unable to diagnose him as he coughed up blood. They had to expose everything to her, and with the government's knowledge, they did everything possible to save him. Drake informed them that the disease afflicting Issac, known as Dragon's Fall, could not be treated with current medicine and required time to heal. Milikas explained that this disease afflicted dragons betrayed by their mates. Claire asked how Issac managed to survive, to which he credited the support of Irina, Rosweiss, Kuroka, Valle, Ingvild, and Gabriel, who shared their feelings with him. He mentioned that he had recently started dating Lavinia. Issac acknowledged that while he could begin to trust them, things would not return to how they were a decade ago. They had all changed and grown. Grayfia agreed with this sentiment. Venelana sensed a familiar power emanating from Issac, but before she could inquire, Drake spoke from the gem on Isaac's left hand, urging him to reveal the truth. Venelana recognized the power of destruction within him, and the others were taken aback by her assertion. Issac confirmed her suspicion, prompting Leah to question why he had not mentioned it earlier. Grayfia speculated that Isaac's reluctance stemmed from the power's association with Rias and Surzex, which he wished to avoid. Venelana requested to see the power, and Issac generated an orb of destruction, its color darker than before, with his eyes shifting to a darkened violet. He noted that it felt different from when he had used it in Yellowstone. Drake explained that this new variant of the power of destruction, derived from Ophis, had the potential to surpass Surzex with proper training. Leah inquired about the power output, and Drake began to explain its capabilities. The situation was dire, with the potential for destruction looming over Richmond and Baltimore. At Yellowstone, a moment of luck had spared them from a concentrated blast, but now the urgency was palpable. Issac had just dispersed an orb of destruction, leaving everyone in shock at its initial power output. His eyes returned to their normal brown color, signaling a moment of calm after the chaos. Venelana offered to train Issac in the power of destruction, hoping to help him hone his abilities. Issac, however, felt it was unnecessary and declined the offer. The conversation with the Phoenixes and Lucifuges had concluded, bringing a sense of closure for Issac. He had reached a significant ranking among the top 10 strongest beings, standing equal to the Tremorti in his strongest non-armored form, known as his solar form. Meanwhile, preparations for the Manila Conference were underway in Kyoto, Japan. The delegation was taking shape, consisting of notable figures such as Amaterasu, Susan, Emperor Hachiro, Prime Minister Teiko Sawada, Major General Iane Sawada, the sibling admirals of the remilitarized Imperial Japanese Navy, Amagi and Akagi, and the interim Yukai leader, Yamato. Following a major constitutional rewrite after the Tokyo attack by the Khaos Brigade, Japan had begun to rearm itself, abandoning its 70-year-long pacifism to protect against future threats. The Emperor and Prime Minister had signed the amendments, allowing for this significant shift. As most of the delegation gathered to discuss final preparations for the conference, Iane arrived at Amaterasu's palace, which had previously been Yasaka's residence. Yasaka had stepped down as leader of the Yukai faction after her betrayal of Issei a decade ago, losing the protection of the Shinto faction and facing outrage from the citizens. Yamato had taken over as interim leader until Kunu was old enough to assume the role of queen. Iane was escorted to the meeting room by Magari, a former leader of the Eastern Yukai faction. As they walked, Magari inquired about Iane's well-being. Iane responded that she was fine and asked if the meeting had started yet. Magari informed her that she and Lady Yamato were the last to arrive, and they hurried to the meeting room, hoping to avoid reprimand from Amaterasu. Suddenly, Yasaka, the former queen of the Yukai, appeared from a nearby room. Over the years, she had become increasingly reclusive, especially after being called out for her betrayal of Issac and forced to step down. She had tried to manipulate Amaterasu against Issac but had ultimately failed. Now, standing before Iane and Magari, she expressed her longing to apologize for her past actions. Iane's response was filled with anger as she confronted Yasaka about her betrayal. She reminded Yasaka of the numerous times Issac had risked his life for them, only to be repaid with treachery. Iane's words cut deep, highlighting Yasaka's cowardice and the loss of her dignity and position as Yukai Queen. Yasaka's head hung low, tears streaming down her face, just as Kunu arrived and noted the tension. Kunu urged Ayane to hurry, as everyone was waiting for her. Ayane acknowledged her cousin's concern but felt compelled to express her frustration to Yasaka. As they walked away, Yasaka's anger grew, blaming Issac for her daughter's departure and vowing to make him pay for the pain he had caused. As the trio entered the meeting room, Ayane bowed and took her seat among the other delegates, including Teiko, Amaterasu, Susan, Hachiro, Yamato, Akagi, Amagi, and Tsukuyami. Ayane apologized for her tardiness, and Susanoo reassured her that it was acceptable but urged her to be more punctual in the future. Amaterasu then initiated the meeting, reminding everyone of the upcoming conference involving all nations of the UN and the Red Dragon Accord factions, a response to the recent attack in Tokyo. The task at hand was to finalize their delegation, with Prime Minister Sawada confirmed as one of the representatives from Japan. Susanoo added that Hachiro would also attend, making it clear that this decision was not open for debate. As the emperor, Hachiro understood that his role was largely ceremonial, yet he recognized the importance of addressing the lingering effects of a war that had ended a decade prior. He decided not to attend the upcoming conference, choosing instead to remain in Japan. He expressed his intention to recommend 2 military leaders to represent him, General Sawada and Admiral Akagi. Ayane, a general in the Imperial Japanese Army, questioned the necessity of this decision. Tsukuyami, a wise advisor, explained that Hachiro had successfully led the home forces to reclaim Tokyo from the brigade. Attending the conference would also allow Hachiro to reconnect with Issei, as the event coincided with Issei's 28th birthday, providing an opportunity for them to spend time together. Yamato, another prominent figure, added that Admiral Akagi would not only represent the Navy but also the Yukai faction. She noted that Akagi's sister, Vice Admiral Amagi, would accompany them as well. Teiko, the Prime Minister, insisted that Lady Amaterasu, the leader of the Shinto faction, should also be present. Her absence would raise questions about the unity of Japan's leadership. Amaterasu acknowledged Teiko's reasoning, understanding the significance of her presence at the conference. The Japanese delegation was thus composed of key figures: Amaterasu, Hachiro, Teiko, General Ayane, Admiral Akagi, and Vice Admiral Amagi. Tsukuyami also mentioned that Team Dog would be attending the conference in Manila, with Lavinia Rennie representing the Italian delegation. 3 days later, in heaven, preparations for the Manila conference were underway. The 4 great seraphs, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, along with Griselda, Dulio, and Irina, discussed the delegations. Michael noted that the conference would be highly secure, with each country and faction sending their main leaders. Irina reported that the Japanese delegation would include the Prime Minister, the Emperor, and Lady Amaterasu. Gabriel raised concerns about the presence of the Devils and Fallen, particularly given Issei's complicated history with them. Raphael shared his apprehension, recalling past betrayals that had caused chaos. Michael acknowledged their concerns but emphasized the need for diverse insights to navigate the future, especially with the throne of Lucifer being vacated. The discussion turned to the specific attendees from the Devil and Grigori factions. Olivia Libra, the Archangel of Darkness and daughter of Azazel, expressed her reluctance to be in the same vicinity as her father, citing past grievances. Michael urged her to set aside her anger for the greater good, while Irina playfully reminded her to focus on the task at hand. Griselda sought clarity on the delegation's composition, and Gabriel confirmed that they needed to ensure the security of heaven as well. The final delegation from heaven was established, consisting of Michael, Gabriel, Irina, Olivia, Dulio, and Griselda. Raphael expressed confidence in their preparations, hoping for a smooth conference in Manila. 2 weeks later, in the Oval Office of the White House, preparations for the Manila conference were nearing completion. President Zachary Mason and his team finalized their list of delegates. They included key figures such as House Speaker Lance Mazarov, General Edward Clegg, and several military leaders. The delegation was set to include Admiral Brandon Quincy, who would provide naval support during the conference. As the team reviewed the final list, they acknowledged the challenges ahead. Zachary expressed hope for a successful conference, but Issac, a member of the delegation, cautioned that the presence of various factions, including the Greeks and the Brigade, could complicate matters. He also mentioned his ongoing training with Tannin and Venelana, noting his progress in mastering the power of destruction. Despite the uncertainties, the team remained optimistic, understanding that their collective efforts were crucial for a peaceful resolution at the conference. Issac had been honing his ability to use Draig's signature flames on weaponry, while also working on applying his fire-breathing skills independently. Mike and Zach nodded in agreement as Issac shared the details of his assessment by Tannin and Venelana. In Asgard, preparations were underway in the Great Hall as Odin presided over a meeting to finalize the list of delegates who would be sent to Manila. He began by announcing the names of those chosen to represent the Norse. The list included Thor Odinson, Sif Odinson, Valiana Lucifer, Ingvild Leviathan, Rosweiss, Gondel, Arthur Pendragon, Lefay Pendragon, and Biko. Odin sought confirmation on whether this selection was agreeable. Gondel raised a question about her inclusion in the conference. Rosweiss explained that Odin likely saw her as a vital asset due to her extensive experience as a Valkyrie, which would be crucial for coordinating security at the venue. She also reminded Gondel of her interest in checking on her grandson-in-law, Issei. Valiana noted that Issei would be one of the main speakers at the conference, anticipating that his presence would generate significant interest. Thor expressed his expectation that Issei would command attention with his fiery demeanor, similar to his mother, Amaterasu. Ingvild mentioned that Issei was scheduled to speak around the third or fourth day of the conference. Sif expressed concern about the timing, while Vala pointed out that Issei's role was pivotal, especially following the statements made by Euclid in Tokyo. Thor acknowledged the lengthy discussions ahead, including the Greek violation of American territory and the need to address the hunt for Issei. Ingvild recounted an incident where Issei's squad had encountered Artemis and Athena, who were attacked by Ares and Hermes but managed to overcome them. Arthur raised the possibility that there might be calls to suspend the Geneva Convention regarding the treatment of vampires and possibly the Greeks, given the exploitation of humans for sustenance. Rosweiss voiced her concerns about the potential consequences of such a suspension, while Odin reminded everyone that speculation was unproductive. He emphasized the importance of watching over their allies as they had done in the past. Meanwhile, at the hidden base of the Khaos Brigade, preparations were underway to counter the Red Dragon Accord factions and the human nations. Ryzavim held the Grail as Euclid and Walburga approached him with updates on their experiments. Euclid reported that the tests for the Collider were progressing well, which could potentially allow them to access Purgatory and resurrect others. Ryzavim expressed satisfaction with the progress and inquired about the chances of reviving the second-generation Satans. Euclid assured him that it was highly feasible within weeks, although reviving the original Satans would be more challenging. On April 11th, aboard Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews, President Mason convened a meeting to discuss the upcoming conference in Manila. He emphasized the historical significance of the event, which aimed to redefine global interactions with the supernatural. General Clegg highlighted the strategic necessity of the conference in light of the recent Tokyo attack by the Khaos Brigade, stressing the importance of military integration with supernatural realities. Mike underscored the need for heightened security, given the Khaos Brigade's willingness to target significant events. He expressed pride in his children participating in this momentous occasion, which added a personal dimension to his commitment. Issac acknowledged the weight of his responsibilities as the Red Dragon Emperor, recognizing his role as a bridge between the human and supernatural worlds. His unique heritage, being the son of Amaterasu, positioned him as a crucial player in the negotiations with various factions. Naomi affirmed Issac's pivotal role, emphasizing the need to leverage his strength and cultural connections to foster alliances with the Angel, Shinto, Hindu, and Norse factions, as well as to build relationships with former adversaries. Masahiko pointed out the necessity of preparing for any scenario, given the unconventional nature of supernatural powers. He noted that their training with elite military units had included supernatural combat scenarios, but real-world application would be the ultimate test. Issac concluded the discussion by reiterating the importance of Isaac's role, recognizing him not just as a delegate but as a symbol of a new era in their collective efforts. The Red Dragon Accord viewed the delegation as a beacon of hope and unity. Their connections to various factions served as diplomatic leverage, essential for securing peace and establishing protocols. More importantly, it was crucial to lay the groundwork for mutual respect and understanding. Issac was determined to ensure that the delegation represented the best of humanity while honoring the supernatural. His mother's teachings had prepared him for this role, equipping him to engage with these beings not only as a warrior but also as a diplomat. Naomi was ready to support Issac from a strategic perspective. They had devised plans for multiple outcomes, knowing that flexibility would be their greatest strength. They were prepared to adapt and respond to whatever challenges arose. Clegg emphasized the need for their forces to remain on high alert. The conference was not merely a gathering, it was an opportunity to demonstrate to the world and the factions involved that they were committed to working together for a common future. The implications of this conference would resonate for decades to come. Mike reminded everyone that beyond security, this was about legacy. They were setting the tone for future interactions, and their children, Issac and Naomi, were not just participants but architects of a new world order. It was vital to leave them with a world where peace between humans and the supernatural was not just a possibility but a reality. Issac concluded the meeting by affirming their mission. They were set to depart for Manila with the aim of fostering peace, understanding, and unity. It was a moment to make history, not just for America, but for the entire world. With a sense of purpose, they prepared for the journey ahead. In Tokyo, the Japanese delegation was preparing to travel to Manila for the conference. Amaterasu was in her palace, donning her kimono and making final preparations. As she dressed, she caught sight of the burn scars on her right arm, remnants of a disaster that would haunt her for the rest of her life. A flashback took her back to August 6, 1945, when she had walked through Hiroshima with a younger Hachiro. He was excited to explore the city, having received permission from his father, Susanoo. As they walked, Hachiro eagerly anticipated the sights, while Amaterasu reminded him to stay close, knowing his father would be worried if he got lost. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light and a deafening boom shattered the peace. Amaterasu instinctively shielded her nephew, enduring the unbearable heat of the explosion that burned her arm and back. Returning to the present, a tear rolled down Amaterasu's cheek as she heard a knock on her door. It was Hachiro calling for her. She quickly wiped her tears and rose to greet him. He informed her that Raiden had arrived, and together they made their way to the reception hall, where they were joined by Susan, Tsukuyomi, Teiko, Ayane, Yamato, Akagi, and Amagi. Amaterasu smiled warmly at her youngest niece, Raiden, who expressed her joy at being home. Susanoo explained that a human supernatural conference would take place in Manila, convened in response to the recent attack. Amaterasu, along with Hachiro, Teiko, and the others, would be attending. Raiden expressed concern for her father and uncle, who would remain in Japan to ensure its defense, as Chiyo was undergoing military training. Before departing, Susanoo requested a private conversation with Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. He noticed her sadness and inquired if she was thinking about that tragic day. Amaterasu's head drooped in sorrow as memories of Hiroshima flooded back. Her siblings embraced her, offering comfort as tears streamed down her cheeks. Susanoo reminded her that she needed to eventually share the truth with both Issei and Hachiro, especially since Hachiro had been with her that day before they had locked away those memories. Amaterasu worried about reawakening trauma but agreed to approach the topic gently, with Susanoo offering to assist when the time came. As they returned to the group, final goodbyes were exchanged at Yokota Air Force Base. The plane carrying the Japanese delegation took off, and news anchors reported on the historic flight, marking the beginning of a significant journey toward peace and understanding. The delegates were as follows: Her Excellency, Lady Amaterasu, Goddess of the Sun; His Majesty, the Emperor, Hachiro; His Excellency, Teiko Sawada, Prime Minister; Her Excellency, Yamato, Leader of the Yukai Faction; Major General Ayane Sawada, Commanding General of the Imperial Army of Japan; Admiral Akagi Kaneda, Commanding Admiral of the Imperial Navy of Japan, and Vice Admiral Akagi Kaneda, Second-in-Command Admiral of the Imperial Navy of Japan. In Air Force One, Isaac, Naomi, and Masahiko were engaged in a lively discussion, with Naomi and Masahiko sharing a laugh at Isaac's expense as he wiped sweat from his brow. Isaac expressed his disbelief over Lavinia's extravagant purchase, questioning the worth of a $2 million item. Naomi speculated about the possibilities, while Masahiko reminded Isaac that he had given Lavinia unrestricted access to his account, which should have prepared him for such spending. Naomi chimed in, recalling that Isaac had previously allowed Irina, Gabriel, Rosweiss, Valle, and Ingvild to spend a combined $10 million in one shopping spree, which was mere pocket change for him. Masahiko laughed, teasing Isaac about his high-maintenance friends. Isaac, slightly annoyed, shifted the conversation to Naomi, inquiring about Brandon's account and the $600,000 she had spent. Naomi dismissed his comment, and Masahiko questioned how Isaac allowed the admiral to date Naomi in the first place. Mike, Isaac's father, explained that Brandon had to prove he could protect Naomi to Isaac. Isaac rolled his eyes at the teasing he received from his friends. A message notification interrupted their banter. Isaac confirmed it was from Iane, informing them that the Japanese delegation was en route. Mike noted that the Hindu and Indian delegation would include the Trimurti and the Prime Minister of India. Naomi expressed surprise that Indra was not attending, to which Isaac explained that the Trimurti, consisting of Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, were more aligned in their thinking. He also mentioned that Cao Cao and the Hero faction would be present in Indra's absence. Zack added that Artemis and Athena were willing to renounce their affiliations with the Greek faction during the conference through a video address. Isaac felt relieved by the positive updates. Lance then brought up Amanda Phoenix's daughter, Ravel, who had gone missing after the Anti-Me faction was attacked by the brigade. Isaac acknowledged the difficulty of the situation but promised to allocate resources to search for her. They were soon informed that they were less than 3 hours from landing in Manila, prompting Naomi to remark on the impending events. In heaven, the delegation prepared for their journey to Manila after meeting with the leaders of the European Union and the African Union. Michael asked if everyone was ready, and Gabriel expressed hope that nothing would go wrong during the historic 5-day conference. Olivia shared her optimism that any potential issues would be resolved positively. Griselda echoed their hopes for strong alliances and peace among nations. Michael encouraged everyone to proceed, as Manila awaited their arrival. Meanwhile, at Mount Sumeru in India, the Hindu pantheon engaged in their final discussions before the Manila conference. Prime Minister Narendra Modi confirmed that the setup for the conference was complete and inquired about the attendance of Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Vishnu affirmed their participation, highlighting the importance of their presence as part of the Red Dragon Accord factions. Modi noted Indra's absence and sought clarification. Indra explained that he felt his presence was unnecessary but assured Modi that Cao Cao and his team would attend. Brahma acknowledged the challenges ahead, anticipating conflicts primarily between the devils and fallen angels. Indra raised concerns about the erratic behavior of the Naga, prompting Shiva to reveal that tensions had escalated between Bela and Mahir Sehgal, resulting in violence against the Sehgal family. Modi connected the dots, realizing this was why Sehgal Industries had halted arms production. Shiva indicated he would discuss the situation with Isaac, emphasizing the need for caution. Later, the U.S. delegation arrived at Basa Air Base in Metro Manila, greeted by news cameras capturing their entrance. They were welcomed by the Philippine vice president and escorted to their hotel. Zack, Edward, and Lance traveled in the Beast, while Mike and the others took separate vehicles in the convoy, with Isaac in the car directly behind the Beast. Naomi remarked on their arrival, and Mike acknowledged the tension that lay ahead in Manila. Isaac noted the presence of many delegations, with only the Angel, Hindu, Japanese, Shinto, and Norse factions yet to arrive. Masahiko informed them that Brandon's fleet had also arrived and was being monitored by various intelligence agencies, highlighting the unwelcoming reception the Bats and Crows received from the predominantly Catholic Filipino population. At the Devil Faction's delegation lodging, members watched the arrival of the United States delegation, discussing the negative reception they anticipated. Serafal expressed surprise at the extent of the hostility directed toward them, while Sona agreed with her observation. The atmosphere was charged with tension as the Devil faction delegation arrived at Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila. Stepping off their private jet, they were met with a furious crowd, held back by a thin line of security personnel. The air was thick with hostility, filled with shouts, jeers, and the occasional chant of an exorcism prayer that rose above the humid Manila breeze. The delegation members, Serafal Leviathan, Ajuka Beelzebub, Sona Citri, Serorg Baal, Riser Phoenix, Latia Astaroth, and Anlavaman, stood together, their expressions a mix of stoicism and discomfort. As the crowd erupted with accusations and insults, one member screamed about betrayal, while another waved a crucifix, demanding the departure of what they deemed foul spirits. The tension escalated when a rotten tomato splattered near Sona's feet, prompting her to defend herself against the accusations of betrayal. She asserted that none of them had turned against Issac, except for one, and urged the crowd to direct their anger at the true culprit. Anlava, unfazed by the hostility, remarked that she was there to represent the council and not to seek approval from mortals. Serorg, stepping forward, demanded respect, emphasizing that they had come to negotiate peace, not to be treated as scapegoats. The crowd's anger only intensified, with shouts of war and lies directed at them. Riser, visibly annoyed, dismissed the crowd's lack of gratitude, while Latia expressed concern about the escalating situation, suggesting they teleport away. Ajuka, however, insisted they remain composed and face the crowd. As insults continued to fly, Serafal's patience wore thin, and she declared her love for Issac, warning the crowd not to provoke her further. A nervous security officer intervened, urging everyone to calm down and directing the delegation to move quickly. Sona seized the opportunity to redirect the blame, pointing out Ionlava as the true traitor, while Ionlava coldly remarked on the difficult choices that had to be made, labeling Issac as expendable. The crowd erupted in outrage, and Serorg had to restrain Anlava, warning her to remain silent. Later, in the fallen angel delegation lodging, Azazel, Baraquil, and Penemu gathered to watch the news as the Manila conference approached. Azazel took a swig of whiskey, reflecting on their tumultuous reception. Penemu urged him to stop drinking, emphasizing that it wouldn't help their situation. Azazel lamented how they had been met with slurs and insults from the humans. As the world tuned into the Manila conference, major news networks broadcast live coverage, documenting the arrival of leaders from various nations and supernatural factions. The American news highlighted the significance of the conference in light of the recent Khaos Brigade attack on Tokyo. Brazilian news reported on the urgent discussions regarding the vampire situation in Romania, while British news focused on the implications for the Geneva Convention. The Saudi broadcast emphasized the readiness of the Arab and Muslim world to protect humanity, and the Chinese broadcast featured President Xi Jinping's arrival and commitment to safeguarding China and its people. As the Devil and Fallen Angel factions arrived, they were met with boos and jeers, a reaction not surprising given their controversial past involving the betrayal of Secret Service agent and Shinto Prince Issac Banning. The Filipino news reported that President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. had arrived and was ready to lead the opening of the Manila conference, setting the stage for crucial discussions ahead. The atmosphere was electric as Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the President of the Philippines, arrived to inaugurate the Manila conference. The crowd erupted in cheers, their enthusiasm palpable, as they spontaneously began singing the national anthem. This moment marked the beginning of a significant event, drawing attention from around the world. As the conference unfolded, Indian news outlets reported on the arrival of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, alongside the Trimurti, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu. This gathering was heralded as a historic occasion for both India and the global community, with eager anticipation for the proceedings inside the convention center. The United States delegation soon followed, capturing the attention of cameras and viewers alike. President Zachary Mason, along with key figures such as House Speaker Lance Mazarov and General Edward Clegg, were present. The focus was particularly on Secret Service agent Issac Banning, who had faced challenges from factions that had previously undermined him. The world watched closely, curious about the dynamics that would unfold in Manila. Inside the convention center, the arena was filled to capacity, with cameras poised to document every moment of the next 5 days. Reports indicated that there had been warm exchanges among the factions of the Red Dragon Accord, including greetings between state leaders. President Mason acknowledged Lady Amaterasu, who expressed gratitude for the care shown to Issac. Seating arrangements placed Japan, Britain, the United States, and the European Union in close proximity, with the Norse factions alongside Nordic countries, and India and Nepal representing the Hindu faction. This configuration held historic significance as the conference commenced. As the MSTR of ceremonies welcomed the attendees, the air was thick with anticipation. Every eye, both human and supernatural, was fixed on President Marcos as he stood at the podium. The room was a blend of power and prestige, hosting an unprecedented assembly of world leaders and the enigmatic heads of supernatural factions united under the Red Dragon Alliance. His voice resonated with authority as he began his address, acknowledging the diverse assembly before him. He spoke of the extraordinary chapter they were about to embark on, emphasizing that the next 5 days would not merely be a passage of time but a pivotal moment that could redefine the balance of their world. He expressed hope that the days ahead would be marked by thoughtful dialogue, mutual respect, and the forging of new alliances. His call for unity and collaboration resonated deeply with the leaders present, who contemplated the historic path they were about to tread together. Following his address, the national anthem of the Philippines played, filling the room with a sense of national pride and unity. The anthem celebrated the beauty and resilience of the nation, invoking a spirit of liberty and honor. After the anthem, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres took to the podium to address the assembly. He highlighted the importance of the conference, emphasizing that it was not merely about forming alliances but about creating new pathways to ensure the safety of their people and the world from threats like the Khaos Brigade. He acknowledged the bravery of the Japanese Army and the U.S. military detachment, which had played crucial roles in combating these threats. Guterres also recognized Colonel Issac Banning for his decisive actions against formidable foes, ensuring that many leaders of the Khaos Brigade would never return to threaten peace again. As Issac appeared on camera, the entire room stood in applause, acknowledging his contributions and bravery, marking a moment of solidarity and respect among the gathered leaders. Several leaders exchanged smiles as they settled into their seats, the applause gradually fading after the Secretary-General concluded his speech. He emphasized that the upcoming days would serve as a time for unity against a common enemy, ensuring a safe world for everyone to enjoy and live in together. Following his address, the Secretary-General stepped away from the podium, and the convention center erupted in enthusiastic applause. The MSTR of ceremonies then took the stage and requested everyone to stand for a moment of silence in remembrance of the victims of the Tokyo attack. The room fell silent as all attendees honored the memory of those lost before resuming their seats. The MC continued by introducing the current leader of the Shinto faction, Her Excellency, Lady Amaterasu, who would provide an update on Tokyo's recovery following the attack that had occurred 8 weeks prior. Amaterasu gracefully made her way to the podium, adorned in her traditional kimono, and began her address. She acknowledged the gravity of the situation, stating that these were not ordinary times. Typically, the leaders of the supernatural factions would remain in the background, safeguarding humanity from the shadows. However, the events in Tokyo had changed that dynamic. She condemned the cowardly attack by the Khaos Brigade, which had targeted the citizens of Tokyo to draw global attention. The use of an entire city and its population as hostages was an atrocity that must never be repeated, and she vowed to ensure it would not happen again. With a heavy heart, she reported the tragic toll of the attack. Over 2,348 civilians had lost their lives, and more than 6,000 were injured and currently in recovery. Issac Banning, formerly known as Issei Hyoudou, had undergone significant changes in his life. He had left behind his past, including his former family, Goru and Miki Hayu, who had disowned him. In his new life, he was embraced by the Banning family, consisting of his father Mike, his mother Leah, and his older sister Naomi. Naomi had also distanced herself from their parents upon learning about the disownment of her brother. Determined to find Issac, she sought assistance from the Shinto and Angel factions. Her journey led her to the Banning family, who welcomed her with open arms, further solidifying the bond between the siblings. Issac's transformation was not just physical, it was deeply rooted in his new identity and the support he received from his adoptive family. The Banning family provided him with a sense of belonging and acceptance that he had longed for. Together, they navigated the complexities of their intertwined lives, forging new paths and creating a future filled with hope and camaraderie. As Issac settled into his new life, he found strength in the relationships he built, learning to embrace his new identity while cherishing the lessons from his past. The journey ahead was uncertain, but with his family by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.